my God, we're back. Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 2022. This is Fat Man Beyond. I'm Kevin Smith.
I am Marc Bernardin.
Hey!
Oh.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. Just when you thought it was all over, just when last time we spoke, we were like, we'll see you next year. It's fucking this year, and it's happening already, man. We got so much to talk about, including Book of Boba. But before we even dive into that, we got him for a few minutes. So we're going to talk to him right up front. He's a busy man, and he's working as we speak. Welcome to Fat Man Beyond, a guy who shot some of the last seasons of Mandalorian and a lot of Boba Fett, as you're going to see all season long. But definitely we saw his name all across season one. Name that's very near and dear to my heart because he shot my first movie as well. From Clerks to Boba Fett, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for baby Dave Klein.
I don't think people call me that anymore.
Come on, man. I'm trying to brand you. That's T-shirts, man. That's marketing. Dave, you have been DPing now for nearly 30 years, a cinematographer. Dave and I met in film school at Vancouver, the Vancouver Film School. Dave shot Clerks, which Clerks is a movie that everyone loves. From a black and white movie that looks like it was shot through a glass of milk with no money whatsoever to the very first season, very first episode that you just watched of Boba Fett. Along the way, he's done True Blood. He's done, was the one with the lady who's like, my mind.
Homeland.
Homeland, the show I absolutely love.
Is that the worst description of that show ever?
Thank you, but he got it. He knew it right away. Dave's shot Deadwood.
Is it True Calling? Is it?
Thank God he knew what it was. But he's
Medium. He was talking about Medium.
Yes, he's shot a whole bunch, man. Now he's shooting in the world of Star Wars. What is it like, dude, to deal in that world? How many things? Here, I'm going to start with the question that I texted Dave after I watched Boba Fett episode 1. I said, "How do the banthas work?" Like, I was like, do you have elephants wearing outfits? How did that work? Dave, how did the banthas work?
And I was like, no, my man, we don't have elephants. We have one bantha that's filled with about 4 puppeteers and another 4 people on little remote controls. And the other 3 or 4 or 5 are CG. And it's on a motion base and it does this and it goes across the back lot and we shoot it.
And motion base is what? It's like a dolly, or
it's on track and it's motorized, but a motion base can be programmed to animation. So you animate it in the previs to do its little walk, and then they program that into the motion base and it does its little walk.
So it's not, so in the first Star Wars, if I remember correctly, I think like they did use animals as like a bantha or something.
That's right.
You guys built a gigantic puppet. One of these exists somewhere in the world, right?
Correct. Yes.
That is.
Does it do birthday parties?
Yeah, I know. Oh my God. Can we rent it? That's the first question. This to me is like, this is the embracing of true Star Wars, or at least the blending of 2 true Star Warses. When George Lucas was doing the original trilogy, or the prequel trilogy rather, it was a lot of like, I'm going to make all the animals and everything in CG. And then since they've started the Disney Plus shows and JJ stuff, it's been tactile. Let's make aliens that are tactile. I'm telling you, that bantha thing captured my imagination, and it makes me so happy to know that they built one. They didn't have to. They could have just CG'd them all in. Why build one at all?
Our methodology has always been, and look, I started late. I started in season 2 of Mando as the 2nd unit cinematographer, and then I ended up shooting episode 6 with Robert, and that's when I came to this galaxy basically, and learned that our methodology always goes back to how would George have done it in 77, and that's where we start. Of course, he didn't have motion bases and things like that, so we cheat a little bit, obviously, but he also didn't have VFX like we do. So we cheat a lot, actually, but it always needs to start with that in mind. And even when we're doing visual effects work and CG work, it starts with that. It has to feel real. It has to feel like, you can't just put the camera anywhere. You got to put it where he could have put it. in 77. You have to move it like he would have moved it in 77. So that's why it's puppets. It's practical shit everywhere. You know what I mean? It's we always try and do it real and until it becomes, you know, financially ridiculous, basically. So, you know, bantha. It's just 4 guys in a bantha.
Amazing. You've been shooting the show historically from season 1 on. The hype around the show was they shoot on the volume, man. They got that volume wall, and that makes all the difference. And for those that don't follow, most people watch this show know the volume is we got the DP right here. Describe what the volume is, Dave.
The volume is it's an LED volume, so it's LED walls and a ceiling. It's about 60 feet wide. It's about 100 feet long. It's an oval. The first season it was round, and the problem with that was that they had to re-record all the dialogue, because if you're in a round building, it just echoes like crazy. So season 2, it became an oval. And, you know, if you stand at a certain, you know, if you're dead center, it echoes like crazy. But otherwise it's pretty, you know, you can record sound in there and it works. But it's an oval. It's LED screens, LED ceiling. And, you know, there are a lot of rules in there. It's tough you can't do day exterior if you need, you know, direct sunlight. It's impossible, because it sounds like it's big, 60 by 100, but it gets small really quick. So,
well, for example, like episode 1 of Boba, you guys are outdoors a lot. There's a lot of, as I was watching that, I was like, well, that ain't the volume. They had to be in the real world.
Yeah. If you see something that's out in the open desert with direct sun, we're outside.
What about when you did the episode in Mandalorian with Boba? Was that 6?
It was 6.
Was there much volume? There's a lot of outdoor work in that as well.
That was the first time. Season 2, episode 6 was the first time the show The Mandalorian had left Manhattan Beach, and we went to Simi Valley for a week.
So you were just on location for the entire episode?
No, just for a week.
Just for a week.
Yeah.
What are the challenges of shooting a Star Wars? Like, we all think about the dream, like, oh my God, you get to see this, you get to see Grogu, you get to see Luke Skywalker, you get to see this. What are the challenges of shooting a legendary space epic, you know, as it moves forward? Both the psychological challenges and just the physical challenges of, like, how do you like something like this?
The biggest challenge is getting jaded towards Star Wars. I mean, but it hasn't happened yet. I've been here for 2 years.
I guess that would be it, right? I guess one day if you were just like, I don't believe this ever happened a long time ago in any galaxy.
Well, I got to tell you, the first time I was ever in a hallway, you know, a Star Destroyer hallway shooting stormtroopers, you know, I was 12 years old again, you know, and I told this story on the set because I actually had that Boba Fett special edition. You know, the one that is probably worth $20,000 now. I had that one. I sent the General Mills box tops in with a check for $3.35 or whatever it was, and they promised that it was going to have the rocket that shoots out the back, right? And it shows up. It shows up, and that motherfucking rocket's glued in, right? Whatever. I blew it all to hell while I was making a 16 millimeter stop animation, you know, film. And my dad was my special effects guy because he used to help me. He wasn't in the business. He was a doctor, but he used to help me with my little model rockets, right? And one day I go into him and I say, hey, Dad, if I cut the end off of this rocket engine and then ignite it, will it just explode? And he said, come again? He goes, maybe 12-year-old Dave, you need some help. So he helped me start making these little 16 millimeter films with a Bolex, and I blew the hell out of that special edition Boba Fett. So it's fitting that I'm here, and every day, Kev, to answer your question, it makes me 12 again. It absolutely makes me 12 again. I'm like, that's a fucking stormtrooper right there. Yeah. You know,
when you guys are sitting down to start a season, you know, is there like a visual diet that you all go on? Like, we're going to watch a lot of Kurosawa. We're going to watch a lot of Leone. We're going to watch a lot of David Lean. Like, what was part of the sampler platter of visual references you guys were drawing from?
It's across the board, really, and it depends on, you know, the directors you're working with. Like I have to remember what my NDA says.
Yes. Dave, be very careful, kids, because Dave is, Dave has worked on things, and Dave would like to continue to working on things. So he's going to be very careful about what he says and has to.
Do you think Mickey Mouse is watching this podcast right now?
Oh yeah, you tell me.
So it depends on the director. For example, like when I started working with Robert, we initially, we had that big fight episode with Boba Fett and all the stormtroopers. And Robert's hilarious. He's a kind of a nerdy genius as well. He actually shot his own little previs with Star Wars action figures, and so he did his own little animatic. And we actually watched a lot of his movies because he knew he had these little things, he references from his own pictures that he wanted to put into that episode. And so we watched a lot of that. And, I've worked with Dave Filoni, and when you're working with Filoni, it's a lot of Kurosawa, and it's a lot of samurai stuff. And so, but it always starts with Doug Chiang. I got to say, it always starts with Doug Chiang and his concept art. And that's where I always try to get, when I'm trying to figure out how to light a set, when I'm trying to figure out, to get some idea of where the lighting should come from and how to do it for a new set or something, I go to Doug's concept art because it's exquisite. You know what I mean? If I could ever light a set the way that he, paints something and draws something, then I'd be a happy man. I don't think I'll ever get there, but that's always where I start. That's the visual language that I start with.
Is that the concept art we see during the credits at the end of the show?
100%.
It's such a good idea for them to roll that, man. Such a good use of it. Somebody spent their time doing it, and previously only like 10 people see it. Now it's a world where he put it on the credits. It's very, very dope. So for every scene that you shoot, or at least for every scene you're gonna go, is there one of those at least for the scene, so that what everything's looking like? Are those your storyboards, for lack of a better description?
Oh no.
There are lots of storyboards.
There aren't storyboards. There's a full previs. There's a full animatic of every episode. Sometimes
before you shoot it, there's a full animatic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's I got to say, that's the way that the volume works. You have to know what you're doing ahead of time, because you're I'm getting yelled at to come back to set, but you have to know, your backgrounds. We've been lighting these backgrounds in VR. I spent so much time in VR goggles lighting the backgrounds, and then it's like a 4-month process from when we start, lighting the VR backgrounds until we can actually look at them on the walls.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Sorry, I lost my train of thought because I just got 16 text messages.
Go.
Anyway, you got any last thing? And what's the last thing? And I'll come back another time, I hope.
Absolutely. The last thing is episodes 1 and 2 are already up of Boba Fett. I'm not saying you've DP'd any of the others, but if you did,
I think the IMDb might tell you that I shot 3, 5, 6, and 7.
What are your favorite episodes of this run? What are the ones we should be looking forward to?
5, 6, and 7.
The end is cool.
Go shoot your show. Before I went and made Clerks 3 this summer. There was a red hot minute where Dave was caught between a rock and a hard place, between shooting Clerks 3 and shooting shooting a Star Wars type thing. And I said, Dave, there is no rock and there is no hard place. Clerks is the past, Star Wars is the future. Embrace the future. And you made the right decision. But you were missed, but you made the right decision, particularly when I sat there and watched episode 1 on my big ass screen TV. And even my wife, who watched it with me, Jennifer, was like, my God, it's gorgeous. I was like, oh, that's baby Dave right there.
Thank you, man. But you know what? I wouldn't be anywhere in this business without you, sir.
Stop it.
I'm not kidding.
Stop it. You rock. Go tell everyone I said hello. Go kill.
Will. All right. Love you,
Godspeed, sir.
Talk to you guys later.
Everybody.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. No longer a baby. Oh man, Dave Klein. Look at that, man. He's
That's
working.
a long nickname.
You and me, we're working. We're not working. He's really working. He can't say because he does have like a series of NDAs, of course, that they make them sign. And, one has to be very careful lest he slip with any particular detail. But I'll say what he can't. He was there. He was working on the show.
Yeah, that's his production office. Like he walks out of there, he's in the volume.
If he would have turned his camera down, you would have seen like the monitor in his office where they were getting ready for the next setup and stuff like that. Like he's actually working. So it was very cool of Dave to take the moment to talk. I blew him up, man, when I saw Boba. I was like, oh my God, come on and talk about it and stuff. But I had to ask about the Banthas. Like I felt so stupid. Like, cause my wife asked me and I was like, I don't know. Cause they look so fucking real. And I know, I think I got an eye for CG, but the way they moved and programming them for movement, I guess kind of makes sense. Cause they did have this lumber and all they do is like, they got the one and then they just duplicate it in CG.
It all comes down to ultimately at the end of the day, 3 toddlers in an overcoat.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. That Bantha could probably go get into a pornographic movie. Same way that exactly. Well, kids, welcome back to Fat Man Beyond. And look, Banff Man's here, everybody. Give it up for Banff Man.
Right before you jumped on the call and Dave jumped on, his background was full of things where I was like, this is gonna get broadcast. Should you turn your camera around? And he was like, oh yeah, I should.
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah. Good looking out, man. It's a good gig for him. Nobody wants him to lose that gig, particularly over this crap. Could you imagine you're shooting Star Wars things, you're working with Favs and Filoni, and then one day you get the call in the office, and you're like, yeah, man,
he's called in and there's the tarp on the floor. They call up on the big screen like, were you on this podcast? And no.
Hey, Pesci him right there. Oh no, before he can think. I'm so glad that he was able to jump on and say hello, man. It's what a glow up. Shit, bro. Like go from shooting Kevin Smith shit to shooting fucking Star Wars. That's a glow up, man. That's very cool. How are you, Captain? How is your holidays?
Awful, I think, is probably the most specific, succinct way to put it.
The fuck? What happened?
Well, it began on December 18th when I flew back to New York with my son to go and celebrate my mother's 80th birthday.
Your mom, who's been on the show.
My mom has been on the show, who came to the Scum and Villiany, who hung out, was aghast at the language we use on a regular basis. So she turned 80, and so we went back to fet her and give her roses, as it should do. And at some point in our New York trip, my son caught COVID. He probably caught the Omicron.
Ooh,
the Cron. So we got back to LA and again, a tickle in his throat, got tested, came back positive. So, and he quarantined for 8 or 9 days until the contagious phase passed. But that was Christmas. Like we pushed Christmas until after New Year's so that he could recover. And then when he recovered, my wife caught it because of course she did. And then when she caught it, my daughter caught it, which was the scary part because she's vaccinated, but she's got the J&J. She's got no booster. She's the world's worst patient in the world for anything medical. And so, just, all right, here we have this autistic kid who's now got fucking COVID. This should be great.
So,
and then
did you dodge the bullet?
I dodged it up until what feels like yesterday. I've been testing negative. I've been testing negative the whole time, but then I got like the tickle in my throat. And then yesterday, like I started to get sneezy and my nose started to run. And I'm like, is this a cold or is this fucking the COVID? And when I get home tonight, I'll take an at-home test. And then if that comes up positive, then I'll go take a PCR test. But like, I don't feel awesome, but it's a wonder that I hadn't caught it until now, if this is in fact what it is. It could also just be the fucking flu.
That's the thing, right? Like, I mean, I guess in order to find out, you have to take an expensive test. First, I'm processing all the information. What was it like for the family everyone's vaccinated, and are they all boosted?
Yeah.
No, not all boosted.
My wife and I are boosted. My son got boosted the day we got back from New York. So like the day he got his positive test was the same day that he got the booster, which, you know, ultimately helped, I guess, ameliorate the worst of it. Because as bad as it got, it was a fever and chills and headaches and some body aches, but no respiratory issues. Nobody was short of breath. Nobody had anything that felt like we were going to think about hospitalization. It was as if you just got hit with the worst cold you'd ever got. So yeah, I mean, now spirits are good, spirits are high, everybody's kind of on the mend, but it was fucking dodgy. And it was also, you know, the mixture of emotions between like sadness and guilt and anger and all of it. It's like we were as careful as people got. You know, like we barely ate outdoors at restaurants anywhere, and it was always outdoors when we did, and always maxed. We got vaxxed, we did all the things, you know, but it happened anyway. So it was a tumultuous period when the rest of the world is jubilant and you're just sitting in your house, like watching, like it's Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown through gridded.
Everyone okay now except for you?
Everyone's okay except for me. I've got I'm bringing up the caboose of not feeling great.
But you don't know if you have it yet, but you suspect that you do.
It would make all the sense in the world. Like, and I don't understand how I didn't get it before. You know, because my son and I did everything together when we were in New York for like 3 or 4 days. And so like we were both as exposed as the other was. So I was like, why don't I have it? And why didn't I get it? But here it is.
It's got to be a commercial for the vaccine. The fact that you
and
were
for the booster. Yeah.
And the booster, that you were able to like dodge it. And then when it came in, you know, that it's not like it didn't send anybody to the hospital.
No, yeah, thank goodness.
Man,
so yeah, that blew.
I'm so sorry to hear that, man. It's a bummer. They say, you know, that Lord knows I've been hesitant to talk about it because I'm sure fucking chat is blown up with like all sorts of opinions. But you know, they say that this version of it is so transmissible, chances are we're all gonna get Cron.
Yeah, you know, this is the side effect of, you know, this is now the beginning of just the way it's going to be, which is there's going to be a COVID season in the same way there's a flu season. Because if enough people don't get vaccinated, we will never hit herd immunity, and there will always be variants, and they will come and they will surge because humans will do what humans do, which is I want to go and see my family in the holidays. I want to go and be with people in the summer. I want to go on vacation. And so we'll just get these seasonal spikes that will be awful for a while, and then they'll change every year. And so hopefully the new booster will get boosted every year, the same way you get a flu shot every year. It didn't have to be this way. It absolutely did not have to be this way, but this is the way it is.
I was supposed to be in New Orleans today for the Fan Expo, but the doctor was just like,
nah, bro.
You, Mr. High Risk Heart Attack victim, which I often don't think about, probably to my detriment. Like it's now been almost 4 years since I had a heart attack, and you know, I kind of processed it and went through it all very quickly and kind of got right back to work and stuff like that. And in moments like this, when they're like, oh no, you were lame and debilitated. I'm like, I mean, look, I always knew I was lame. People have been telling me that since fucking grade school, but debilitated? Heavens. So yeah, it's, you know, it's a bummer. Fuck, it's a bummer.
Yeah.
But I've been dodging it so far.
Good for you, man.
Because I've been out there,
well
man.
dodged.
Like honestly, I was on Be Real's podcast like a couple weeks ago, and I assumed I didn't even think to ask. Like everybody's vaccinated, right? We were doing a podcast where everybody was like hotboxing, and you know, I drove home going like, if I don't have Omicron, I then from that,
right.
then I'm doing
never going to get.
Yeah, I mean, heavens, and thank knock wood so far. No, but I'm not like one of those people that I don't believe in it. I fucking believe in it. I'm scared of it and dodging it like crazy and stuff. And it changed my plans this weekend and this month in general. So fingers crossed this shit goes away, man. I mean, just when we were getting, to put it back on point, just when we were getting to a place where like fucking Spider-Man can make $1 billion. Something that hasn't happened since 2019. I know that's not like we should all be pulling for this, people, so that corporations can make billions of dollars. But as a movie fan, fan of Marvel movies in general, seeing them hit that milestone easily, fairly fucking quickly, felt like right on, the world's back to normal. There was a sense of fucking normalcy because of Spider-Man No Way Home making as much money as it did. Everybody seeing it in the theater. But now, things go.
It found the window. It found like the last time you could probably do that.
Apparently that window was Spider-Man No Way Home, and that's when the Cron was like,
that was it. Hey, we're coming. And now they're canceling, like the Grammys are being postponed, and the Sundance is virtual again, and Golden Globes. Well, nobody gave a shit, but
those were boycotted by a bunch of people and stuff for different reasons altogether. But yeah, everything's starting to shut down again. I had I wouldn't say a full January, but I had things in January that took place outside of this house. But right now, I'm going to be in this little box for most of January.
Yeah, I don't know when we're going to get back to the cantina, but it's probably not going to be for a bit.
No, we're going to have to be doing this for a minute, kids, which allows us to do crap like this. Look at what Sideshow sent as a Christmas gift.
Wow.
Fucking Aztec Batman, bro.
That's awesome. Shit.
How fucking dope is that, man?
That is very cool.
I don't know if they sell them or not, but I put it on my shelf. I fucking love it. This is what we sold for Christmas. Well, I didn't, but Inside Editions did. We got that Kevin Smith book, Kevin Smith Secret Stash. Inside Editions made a fat ass binder version.
Ooh.
So it comes with like not just that book, but then it comes with this secondary book, and the book is glorious, man. If you like Kevin Smith, even if you're remotely interested in Kevin Smith, it seemed to be the Christmas gift that on my Twitter feed everyone was getting each other. This comes in the special edition. It's a fake version of the Askewniverse Bible that Alanis held at the end of Jerry and Silent Bob Strike Back. So it's signed and numbered, but it comes with Nate. Our very own Nate Gonzalez's book, Smartest, with all of our show artwork. It comes this cool ass puzzle from the front cover art of the book, man. It's glorious. They just sent me one. It's fucking fantastic.
I like that they sold ultimately what is a stash book for weed, and was like, but there's a puzzle. It's a puzzle case. It's not anything else than that.
Once you make the puzzle, you put your weed in that box, man. That's brilliant. But it's a gorgeous, gorgeous book. And I know that book works because I sent it to my mother and she called me up crying. She was like, "Oh, Tiger, you've done so many things." So if you want a book that'll make you say, "Oh, Tiger, you've done so many things," Kevin Smith Secret Stash. You can get one on Amazon, or you can get that fat ass edition on Insight Editions. Did you get anything cool for Christmas other than fucking COVID?
Not really, because my wife is running up against the problem that I'm sure lots of longtime wives have, which is I've been married to this motherfucker for like 20 years. Anything I could have gotten him, I have gotten him. And also, he does well enough in the world that if he really wants a thing, he just goes out and buys a thing.
I have the same situation. So much so, but this year, my wife was like, "Look, you're impossible. What do you want?" And I was like, I really don't want anything. Whatever I want, I just go kind of get when I want it. I was like, but we're starting to show the movie here at the house, screenings upstairs. And I was like, but the TV, the sound system and the TV, somebody the other day commented was like kind of weak. So I don't know, maybe a TV with a better, thing. And so she reached out to Jay, and Jay was like, "I know what to get." And I have a very fucking modern looking television upstairs, man. I ain't bought a TV in fucking over 10 years. We still have that gigantic TV in my bedroom, the Panasonic, that still works. But so
Panasonic is out of business as a company, but you're like, I still got my Panasonic.
are they out of business as a company?
Oh, that is the only, I have not heard the word Panasonic in what feels like 10 or 15 years.
Wow.
I'm sure the chat will correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure that I am. But
TV takes a lick and keeps on ticking. It never even took a lick and it's still going. But when it dies eventually, this was for those who are like, what? Years ago, Ed Jando is a lovely gentleman who worked at Panasonic, gave me this TV that they were going to get rid of. It was gigantic, 103-inch monitor that they use, tall as a human being. They used for like the Olympics, and he's like, it has no speaker system on it. You'll have to buy speakers. I was like, fuck, I'll buy the speakers. So I've had this motherfucker in my room, just this many feet from the bed for like the last decade. And, you know, one day it's bound to go because we watch the fuck out of it and shit. But when it goes, like, I don't know how we're going to get it out because it was 2 tons. Getting it in was like fucking madness. We might just turn it into a bed or some such shit, even if it's like not working. But
that's when you move.
That's it. We'll leave that TV and abandon the fucking house. So we hadn't bought a TV, and we didn't even buy that TV. So I ain't bought a TV, and I can't tell you how fucking long. So she bought me a TV for Christmas, and you know, I was like, yeah, it was more practical because it was like now I could show people the movie without worrying about the sound and stuff.
You know, the gift that I did get that was lovely was my wife bought me a director's chair.
Awesome gift. She put your name on it?
She put my name on it. Marc Bernardin, director.
Bro, what are you talking about? She's like, we've been married 20 years. She don't want to get me. That's the perfection of a gift.
It was the perfect gift. It was the perfect gift.
Classy. That's so classy. Yeah.
But every year it's a struggle for both parties concerned.
Well, this year she made out like a bandit, man. She's like, who's the director? I got theme gifts. She could have gotten you a fucking megaphone, Jodhpurs. We have a sponsor, kids. Somebody's always helping us pay our bills. The reason we get to talk to you is because somebody jumps on board. Who is our sponsor? First half of the show, Mr. Marc Bernardin.
The first half of the show, we have a new sponsor. First time sponsor for the Fat Man Beyond program.
Is that right?
It is. It's called IMI, the world's first low carb, high protein and 100% plant-based instant ramen. Each serving of IMI has 21 grams of protein, 19 grams of fiber, and only 6 grams of net carbs.
The fuck, is this serious? We're doing a commercial for something I could eat?
Absolutely.
Ooh, I'm so down, man. IMI?
IMI, IMMI.
Holy crap, man. Let's go through this list. Low carb, only 6 grams of net carbs per serving. High protein, 21 protein. 100% plant-based. Good for digestive health. Lower in sodium, so you'll have to add your own salt. Convenient. IMI is super easy to prepare in the microwave or stovetop, and you could have a bowl ready in 7 minutes. Delicious and comforting crafted plant-based flavors, man. Spicy beef ramen, tom yum shrimp ramen, black garlic, chicken ramen. I am down for the beef and the chicken, man. I've never been a shrimp person. High quality ingredients. We use high quality ingredients for the noodle and soup base with no natural preservatives. But how is it different? It's 85% lower net carbs than other ramens. Well, that helps, man, because those other ramens are pretty much all carbs. It contains 3 times more protein, 4 times more fiber. More traditional instant ramen brands use meat-based ingredients and unhealthy preservatives in their soup bases. IMI is 100% plant-based product that uses high-quality ingredients, man. Here's the thing. Even if you're like, I ain't vegan, I like to eat all the soups and with the meats and stuff, you can still enjoy this, man. Tasty. That's the idea. And healthy. Where should we send them to pick this up? I'm going to go buy it now as you say it.
We're going to send them to IMI Meats, IMMIEATS, IMIEats.com/fatman, and use the code FATMAN at checkout for $5 off your order. That's IMIEats, IMMIEATS.com/fatman to get the $5 off a variety pack today.
I'm on the page, man. It says, welcome, Kevin Smith fans. Why, hello. I'm buying this shit, dude. This is the first time during the show that I'm like, I'm using the show to buy something. One-time purchase. Oh, no, I don't think so. 6-pack.
Yes.
Oh, that's for lesser people. 12. Variety chop. Well, I don't need the shrimp, so I'm just going to hit this bad boy here.
Do it. They also offer a 100% happiness guarantee, so you can try Emmy risk-free and decide for yourself if Emmy is worth it. And if you're not happy with your Emmy, they will offer you a full refund within 30 days of purchase.
I am all over this. Oh my God, man. Go to Emmy Meats, IMMIEATS.com/fatman. And do they have to say anything or no? Use the code Fatman.
Yeah, Fatman.
All one word at checkout. I'm in. Oh my God, man.
EmmyEats.com.
Emmy Eats, man. Emmy's finally putting some ramen back in my mouth. It's been years since I've had ramen. Being a plant-based individual, plant-based Emmy is going to close the gap. I can't wait to eat it. I literally just ordered it as we're doing the show. Be like Kev. Go to Emmy.com, EmmyEats.com/fatman. We thank the good folks at Emmy for sponsoring the first half of this episode of Fat Man Beyond. I particularly, as a vegan, thank them. That's one more thing to add to the fucking diet. Yay.
Kick ass.
All right. Boy.
How have you been?
I've been good, man. Like I've been writing most of the holiday and eating. Oh my God, I gorged. I lost a close friend, canine friend, fucking family member between the last time we did this and now Marty, Mad Mardigan, our rescue dog. We don't even know how old she was, man, but she was plenty old. Made it right to a couple days after Christmas. And then, she had tumors inside and she was eating 3 bowls of like meat, like steak, chicken, real, not just dog food shit a day. And very little was coming out of her. So, and her stomach kept getting bigger, and the doctor he was like, if I put her under, she's not coming back up because she has a weak heart and stuff. So it was a waiting game and we pushed it as far as we can. She started crying in the night and stuff. So we got her the traditional filet mignon dinner for the night before and the morning of, and then the doctor came to the house. And that's a nice thing. She didn't have to leave. She was here at the home. Sometimes people don't get as lucky as we get where the vet can't come to your house and you have to bring your pet to the vet and stuff. And, for some people who've never had a dog or a cat or any sort of animal family member, it's easy to dismiss, to be like, oh, well, fucking life goes on. Life is a series of dogs. And it's tougher when you've spent like a lot of your life with that animal, when it goes beyond this is a pet or this is a different species. And aren't dogs funny? Into like, that was one of our fucking kids, man. Like, and we've now lost 4 dogs, to old age, real old age. Scully, Mulder, Louie, and Mad Mardigan, Marty. They all lived to be deep double digits, mid double digits. Like I think Mulder was the oldest at 16. That's a 16-year-old kid, man. It's like you can't just like go back to life the next day. There is a hole, a giant emptiness that isn't as simple as being like, oh, I had a dog. Like, no, you lost a fucking family member, and we grieved accordingly. Like, it was dark around this house for about a week. As much as I love that dog, and I spent a lot of time taking care of that dog in the last like 4 months of her life, and definitely the last 2 months, man. That was Jennifer's dog. So Jennifer like took it super, super fucking hard. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't the COVID, but post-Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, things got very, very sad around here. And you know, I feel bad because there are people who lose like real, like human being relatives and stuff. And I ain't taking anything away from any of those people, but yeah, I felt like I lost a family member. It hit pretty damn hard. And this was a dog who I haven't spent 16 years with. We figured out like when she passed about 5.5 months, 5.5 years by the time we got her. And we got her as one of those like fucking dogs that they show on in the arms of the angel. One of those commercial dogs.
The Sarah McLachlan dog.
Yeah, she was a Sarah McLachlan mutt. She was so fucking bone thin and shit, and nursed her back to health and stuff. But yeah, really hated to see her go. And you know, there's one dog left, Shecky, last dog standing. She turns 17 this year. You know, you sign up for these things and there's the tacit agreement that like one day your heart's going to get broken. We don't do that with people come into our lives, or if we have kids, there's no understanding that like one day I'm going to see all of your life and you're not going to see all of mine. Like, crushes me. So yeah, it was tough. But other than that, good. I spent a lot of time writing, back to my point.
Good.
To stay out of that, to stay out of the, you know, not destructive, but very sad mindset. And instead of doom scrolling about like, you know, the fucking health, about the COVID and shit, I just dove into writing. I've been writing comic book scripts for this thing I'll be talking about soon. And oh my God, I've been having such a good time. Such a good time. You know, I've got a job as Kevin Smith, like that's what I do for a living, and I forget from time to time that this all started with a boy who wanted to write so badly, who like words were magic to him, and those magic words took him this far in life. So getting back into the groove of writing was absolutely wonderful. I mean, I wrote Clerks 3 last year this time. And then I did a few drafts throughout the year before we made the flick and whatnot. And then I've written some other stuff that was fun, but like work oriented. But this was me just like having a blast again and reveling in an art form where you don't have to fucking think about how much it's going to cost, or, you know, are these people alive still, or, you know, anything like that, because it's right there on the page. So that has been very therapeutic for me, a lot of that. And hopefully soon I'll be able to tell folks what I've been writing for. It's very, very exciting.
Hooray.
All right, but enough about me and my bullshit. Let's talk about the important things.
Yes.
What do we do first? Should we dive into the Fett?
We could fit it. We can do the Fett. There's like an FYI, boys and girls, there is almost no news this week. There's been it is the end of the year to the beginning of the year. Hollywood ultimately shuts down between like Thanksgiving and New Year's, but definitely between Christmas and New Year's. So nothing really happened. There have been no announcements that are particularly cool. There might have been a thing or two that slipped through the cracks, but they were so cracky that I couldn't even find them. The one thing that I saw was that the CW apparently is being put on the block for sale, which is a big deal.
Wait,
or the very least, a majority.
Warner Brothers is going to sell CW off?
Warner Brothers is going to sell their majority share, I believe, in the CW. I'm sure they'll keep a piece of it, but it won't be, quote unquote, their network. And it was always like a CW, like it was kind of the CBS meets Warner Brothers amalgam. There was some Viacom shareholderiness. There was some Warner Brothers shareholderiness. It was always a bit of a network caught between two worlds. But if Warner Brothers sort of relinquishes its majority hold on it, will all of the DC shows remain on the CW is a relatively big question. Will they go to HBO Max? Will they become streamer only? It's all of this is unclear. It's all relatively new. There's no buyer yet. And even if somebody decides they do want to buy it, it's going to be a long time in regulations and approvals and all that stuff. But it is worth noting that this giant network is going to go onto the block.
Why do you think? Like, in a world where HBO Max or Warner Brothers, merged with Discovery, and they created this gigantic, uber conglomerate company, entertainment giant.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you divest of any piece of that, let alone one that, at least from the outside, has seemed very successful?
The only insight that one could have is from the outside it does, but maybe from the inside it isn't. Maybe the desire to become streamers, or at the very least basic cable, is it might be an expense that they don't want to carry anymore. And maybe looking at the ratings for your average CW show, they don't light up the world the way they might once have in the past. And so when something like, Riverdale does exponentially better on Netflix than it did on the CW, it becomes, then why are we not putting a thing like Riverdale on HBO Max? Why are we even bothering with the CW? If we can't get enough viewers to make the ads profitable enough, is this an enterprise that seems like it's earning its keep? And somebody must have decided the answer to that was no. Or at the very least, the answer was, let's look at it and see if anybody wants to have this.
I suspect it won't mean the end of, it'll probably mean the end of some CW DC things, but like, even if somebody buys CW and those programs or the DC properties don't go along, it seems like Warner Brothers now has their outlet, like, with HBO Max. Like Lois was Superman and Lois went right there. I think this like day after it aired on CW, right, or something like.
Yeah, I think it was always like, it's unclear to me whether or not it was going to be an HBO Max show that also appeared on the CW or vice versa. I think it was the CW first, then HBO Max. But I do think that once this cycle of DC shows is over, if the CW is no longer in the Warner Brothers fold, they will keep making DC shows. But like the Green Lantern Corps show that they're working on is going to be for HBO Max. The Constantine reboot that JJ is doing is going to be on HBO Max. Like, all of that stuff is going to be feeding that beast as opposed to the CW. And so, like, yeah, I don't think we'll stop seeing it. I just don't think we'll see it on the terrestrial air the way we're used
to. Interesting. There were some other stories. Did you see the Punisher's change of wardrobe?
Yeah, he lost his skull, right?
And they're changing the character entirely. Or I shouldn't say changing, they're evolving the character entirely. He's becoming he's joining the Hand, which in the Marvel universe is the how would you describe them? Yakuza gang? No.
They're like Yakuza meets ninjas meets, Clubhouse. It took me far too long to realize that the foot in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was just a play on the hand.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not today years old when I discovered that, but it was way deeper into my life than it should have been.
The Frank Castle, as most people watching this show would know, has been around the Marvel universe for a long time, and he was a war vet, Vietnam vet, who his family gets killed in the park by organized criminals. He's the very definition of a vigilante. He's Batman, but with different circumstances, no money. Loses his loved ones, and then starts a one-man war on crime. This character has been insanely popular for decades. He's recognizable by the skull on his chest. Apparently, the skull on his chest became problematic because it's been co-opted by some folks that I guess Marvel doesn't want to be associated with. So this seems like their fix, which is also, I guess, the character, in more recent years has come under fire for all the gun use and stuff. And So what they've done is they've changed the skull to a proprietary looking skull. Like that's the other reason. Like Marvel/Disney can't own or copyright or trademark the image of a skull as seen on the Punisher, because it's just too close to a regular skull. By adding the horns and stuff, that is their Punisher logo now, and also removes them from the Punisher logo as it's traveled in the world to places they don't want to be associated with. Frank Castle no longer using guns or machine guns or any sort of guns. He's all swords now because they're all swords and stuff. Naturally, some folks very upset. I don't read the comics, so I got no skin in the game. But as a longtime comic book reader, this is what I'll say. If you wait long enough, kids, everything comes back around. This is not the first time that Frank Castle's been turned into like a different version of the Punisher. They did this when we did Marvel Knights. They did, like, Frank Castle got killed, went to hell, came back as a guy who would only kill bad people and monsters, like supernatural characters and stuff like that. It's a character that sometimes, based on the culture, has butted up against the culture. And so Marvel has tried to find ways to still keep a beloved character viable while, not being associated with whatever they don't want to be associated with. This is yet another example of that. So if you're like, oh, I can't stand what they're doing, take it from an old comic book fan. Just wait 10 minutes. Yeah. Like, nothing is forever, kids. That you think that skull is gone from the Punisher's chest forever? No. And when they put it back on his chest, they will sell a bazillion copies for the welcome back. So it, rather than feed the rage machine, just be like, you know what? I bet you we'll see that skull again. Something tells me you will. Something tells me you'll see guns back in Frank Castle, the Punisher's hands one day. But right now they're trying something different. And anytime a company tries something different, it's good. They're being creative.
I'm surprised they didn't kill him. And in the same way that all of those things you said, the logic still applies. You can kill a character, let him lay fallow for a few years, and then bring him back to great aplomb, great sales. The guy you are loathed was gone, has returned with a new mission, a new outlook on life. It's Mary Tyler Moore, but with guns. Whatever that is. But I feel like if you're looking to quell that conversation, then the death of a character is pretty strong. And you just got to stick to it for a little bit. Not forever, not even like a long time, but just long enough to make people miss it.
That's not what they're not doing that here.
No. Which is one of those like, yeah, all right, sure, he's going to be using swords, but then is he the Punisher anymore? Or is he just like a guy with swords?
Look, characters can evolve and change. There are characters that start as one thing and become something else. Robin became Nightwing, I'm sure there are many, but this is an example of something they could have done. Frank Castle could have become something else, but to their credit, they're like, look, rather than just kill him off and rather than just like, move him to something, we'll try this. We'll tie him into, at least it ties into existing Marvel lore. Like we'll tie him into the hand for a while. They'll use swords. And then if everyone hates it, we'll sell 1 million books when we go back. So I wasn't losing sleep over it regardless, but as an old hand at this, kids, that's why, when people got mad at Masters of the Universe, I was like, just wait 5 minutes. There's another one coming. Literally, one came like a few months after us or 1 month after us. So yeah, this IP is so strong, so powerful that there'll be other iterations.
And also if you are an old comic book hand, that every character that you currently love was introduced in a fashion that would make you blush if you looked at it. Like Blade is a super cool character. The Blade from Tomb of Dracula is like an avenging disco godfather. And over time and through lots of hands and writers, like it evolved and changed and shifted. Black Panther, sure, okay. I mean, Jack and Stan had some thoughts about it. But, I'm not going to say they were the most penetrating insights into African, uncolonized Africa created by two Jewish guys in New York. I'm just saying it didn't go that deep. The bones were there for somebody to eventually pick it up and make it great and make it the thing that you recognize. But yeah, everything needs to evolve. Everything needs to change. And perhaps it's time for the Punisher to do just that.
Looking at chat, they'll always tell us what we missed as well. There's a Boys season 3 teaser trailer that just dropped today. We'd show it, but naturally they'd throw us off YouTube and arrest us. We can't ever show videos here for some reason. We've tried to show fucking videos for my own things, and we've got thrown off YouTube and getting citations. I don't know what button we have to press to do away with that, but regardless, you can go find that Boys teaser right now. I watched this fucking quick, but it
was just a date announcement more than anything. That season 3 is coming in June. But
it's new footage. It ain't old. So technically a sneak. But it did make me like, ooh, I'm ready for that. And then I was like, when? Fucking June. Counting on me to be alive till June. When's Doctor Strange come out?
I think it's May, if I remember correctly.
They just moved Morbius
to April 1st.
Now, I've read a story, and who knows if this is conjecture, but the move had less to do with the Kron and more to do with the Mon, as in Spider-Man, who is making all the money at the box office. Sony's like, fuck this. And they just moved Morbius so that No Way Home could continue earning. Did you read that?
I didn't read it. It astonishes me, though, that like Morbius feels like it's a made for streaming movie. I don't know, maybe it's because I never really got down with the Venom, and so this sort of stony Spider-Man extension universe never really appealed to me that much. It seems as if what you would want is people who are currently excited about Spider-Man to give them immediately a thing that they would want to capitalize on that excitement about Spider-Man, which I'm sure was the initial idea. Was like, put it out in January, just after people saw Spider-Man. It will be fresh in their minds. And so, yeah, I don't know. Although April Fool's Day does seem like a perfectly good day to release a movie like Morbius, the Living Vampire.
Okay. No, I mean, the chat has been blowing up with like, hey man, fucking talk about Ben Affleck. And I do talk about Ben, but like, this week
something else happened.
Yeah, I'd said something this week or somewhere about like, it was on the last fucking show we did, where I was like, look, like he's already said he doesn't want to do this anymore. So, they chose Michael Keaton because it's either you bring a brand new Batman in, or at least you go to make the premise work of the Flash movie in terms of the, multiple worlds and whatnot. And then to make their Batgirl movie work where they need an older Batman to train a younger Batgirl. My point was, Michael Keaton does make sense, particularly and chiefly because I said Ben didn't want to do it. And I was saying it based on everything that has been publicly available. And yes, some things that I know that aren't publicly available as well. But some folks, wrote articles and fucking were like, came after me again with pitches and torches. The idea being that I was poo-pooing Ben as Batman. Not at all, but it's like I thought Ben made it very clear in the press and at least to me that he was like, no, that I'm done with that. So There's an article that is up and it's on comicbook.com. So, and it's all over the website. So let's see. The headline is, ex-Batman actor Ben Affleck had the, quote, worst experience making Justice League. Sorry, I sound like a grandfather. How was the Justice Leagues?
Because I'm looking at the source for that, and it's an LA Times interview.
It's an LA. That's the important part of the story. Is this is a legit source, correct?
It is. The quote is, it was really Justice League that was the nadir for me. That was a bad experience because of a confluence of things. My own life, my divorce being away too much, the competing agendas, and then Zach's personal tragedy, and the reshooting. It just was the worst experience. It was awful. It was everything that I didn't like about this. That became the moment where I said, I'm not doing this anymore. It's not even about like Justice League was so bad, because it could have been anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's when he says Justice League, which is he talking about? Joss Whedon's Justice League?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you said Justice League was the nadir, so the worst part of it, and all of the things that happened with Justice League that made it just the whole kit and caboodle of it was just, I'm not happy doing this stuff. You see that about directing Batman. It's like I looked at it and thought, I'm not going to be happy doing this. The person who does this should love it. You're always supposed to want these things. And I probably would have loved doing it at 32 or something. But it was the point where I started to realize it's not worth it. It's just a wonderful benefit of reorienting and recalibrating your priorities, that once it started being more about the experience, I felt more at ease. So yeah, I mean, Ben has explained in what seems to be relatively clear fashion, I don't want to do these anymore. And Justice League was an awful experience for him for all of those reasons, personal reasons, professional reasons. And he recalibrated and reset his priorities and said, I just don't want to do it. It's not that he was bad at it. It's not that the internet didn't like it. It's not that the grosses were bad or anything. It was just for him, this is not how I want to spend, the sort of mid-period of my life. Which is fair.
And absolutely fair. And something that he's said in one version or another. He didn't go as deep as he went this time, but he made it clear a while ago that he's like, yeah, no, I don't want to do stuff like that anymore. So what happens now to the folks that are like, Affleck or nothing? Like, all the people who are mad about Michael Keaton. It's like, does that make you less mad? Do you go, oh, or does it matter?
I mean, you would think that, 2 + 2 = 4. The guy that they are championing to want to do Batman doesn't want to do it anymore. So they would stand down, just be like, you know what? All right, we were wrong. We thought we were taking something from him, but it turns out it's something he doesn't want. I imagine that if the sort of conspiracy theorist wool gathering world that we live in will be, the man is telling us this story. Like, he can't blink if they're holding you hostage, Ben, because that doesn't sound like the Batman that I know. Like, there's a narrative that makes that seem as if it's some kind of, conspiracy or cover up or conjecture or whatever. But sometimes you just got to let it go. Sometimes you don't get what you want, and that's fine. That's what life is.
Or also, as we've seen, Michael Keaton just came back as fucking Batman. Just wait 10, 20 minutes, man. There's a world where fucking 10 years from now, they're like, Ben, come back and do Batman because it makes sense in this movie. And he's in a different mindset. And he's like, all right, yeah, let's do it. I'll tell you, man, I'm trying to see the sunny side of the street. So if he's out as Batman, maybe that means he's in as Daredevil over at Marvel. Now they got that multiverse going, man. Maybe if someone opens a door and it's Ben Affleck, Matt Murdock, he sounds like he's just done doing superhero stuff. I text him. We worked together fairly recently, and there was afterwards I was texting him being like, you're having a good time. You're in a great performance space right now. The Tender Bar, The Last Duel, the thing that he did with us, he's so in a comfy zone place. And he said, it's weird. Just when I'm starting to think about concentrating on directing, he found an acting mode vibe where he's like, he hit his moment where he's just like, oh, I know what I'm doing, after years and years and years. But it's been nice to see him kind of having a good time performance wise.
I mean, there's the world in which that dude just sort of blossoms into Clint Eastwood, who's like, I know my speed. I know how I perform the most on screen. I know what looks good for me on screen. And I love to direct. If I can do them both, great. Sometimes I'll show up and act in a thing because it's fun, not going to take a lot out of me, and I can do the thing that I do well. And then I want to go make these movies, and I'll make them fast, and that's my life. And I have a really good time doing all of it. And that is a perfectly good target to aim for, because that dude is still fucking making movies in his 90s. Yeah. And he's, like, why not? Why not find what you like and go do that?
Same studio too. Like, Clint Eastwood,
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers is home forever. Warner Brothers loves Ben. Like, and he honestly, like, after The Town, after Gone Baby Gone, The Town, and Gone Girl, not Gone Girl, The Town and Argo, like, it looked like, oh my God, he is gonna be young Clint Eastwood and stuff. And then after Argo, that's when Batman v Superman came calling and stuff. So I feel like, he was like, this has been fun, but now I'm gonna go back to like what I was doing and stuff. And that mixture of being able to write and direct, like, kind of grown up fare. He makes very grown up movies. Like, all those movies he made were very Gone Baby Gone, The Town, and Argo are inarguably more mature movies than anything I've fucking made. Like, and I don't mean like, they're not juvenile, although they're not that. They're just accomplished. They're serious adult, like, drama. My parents would have went to see those movies in the movie theater when I was a kid. They would not have gone to see fucking Kevin Smith movies. So he's got a future, that Affleck. I think we're going to be hearing from that young wrestler, and I don't mean a postcard.
Yeah, I mean, I think we live currently in this place where fans expect things to go on forever, and they expect, in one fashion or another, to get what they want, and that has never been the case. All good things come to an end. Like, every iteration of a thing that you love fades, and the people who make them stop making them. The people who were in them stop wanting to be in them, sometimes because they want it, sometimes because they don't, sometimes because they pass away. But everything has to end. And so if this was the end of Ben's run as Batman, and it's on his terms and he's at peace with it, then, like, let it go. You'll have another Batman again in like 6 months. There's a new Batman. Will you love this guy as much as you love him? Who knows? If you didn't like him, there will be another one 6 years from now that isn't Robert Pattinson, because they will never let Batman die. So, like, to your point, just wait a little bit. You're going to get a new one. But
we're getting ever closer to the inevitable Bat Ham, when John Hamm finally puts on the suit.
And yeah, like, there's the world in which, when Ben at 65, who's still in great shape, decides, you know what, now's the time for The Dark Knight Returns. Now I'm old enough to tell this story that I couldn't have told before. And then go do that. Looks great. Ben's back to tell the last Batman story. And fuck it, I'd be here for that. I'd be here if Clint still wants to do that. Well, not really.
That'd be
if Clooney decided he wants to, like, fucking be old as Batman, shit, give me that. If Michael Keaton decides he wants to,
especially if he was like, I have something to prove. I have a story to tell.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, wow, that was like a breaking story.
Yes. More news than we thought there was.
Yeah, man. Is there any other news chat that we're missing? Oh, Banff Man is in. What you got? How is everything in chat?
Chat looks pretty good. People are talking. I'm sure we'll get to it at the end. A lot of people died this week, but like famous people.
Did they really?
I mean, yeah. less in our sphere, but Betty White passed away, and today Sidney Poitier died.
That's right.
Peter Bogdanovich also.
Oh my God, Peter Bogdanovich died as well.
Yeah.
How old was Peter Bogdanovich?
It's late 80s, I thought, or 82, 83.
A lot of
Betty
cats
White was
know him
99.
as Dr. Melfi's psychiatrist in The Sopranos, but that was one of our most celebrated American filmmakers.
82
that role for years.
82.
82.
Yeah, it was 99 was Betty White. Sidney Poitier was 94, and Bogdanovich was 82.
Wow. Betty White, of course, is a huge loss, especially so close to her birthday, but her 100th birthday. But as I saw, many people online were like, "Hey man, if you count all the time she was in the womb, she made it 100 years." And then I saw one that was like, "Hey man, if you take off those bullshit fucking leap years, she made it to 100." It it was very important for all of us that she got to that number and stuff. And people were doing math and writing algorithms to make it happen. Shows you how beloved she was. I spent a few days, falling down the rabbit hole of her stuff on YouTube, and what a lovely human being she was. Jason Mewes put up a fucking photo of him with her, and I was like, when did you work with fucking Betty White? Like, I know you. When did you work with Betty White? And he's like, did you notice Barack Obama in the background? And it was at a wax museum. I hadn't really, like, I did, but I didn't put together, like, why would Obama be fucking photobombing Jay's photo?
Is this a fundraiser or something? Like, how much did Jay give to Obama's campaign to get to this house? Was him and Betty White and Obama? Like, did he go to like the National Arts Endowment Foundation gala where they're...
What does he do when he's not standing next to me in movies and in real life? And Sidney Poitier, of course, has an amazing historical body of work. But one of my favorite performances of his is from Sneakers. Remember Sneakers?
So much fun.
So much fun. And he was having a good time too, because you're talking about, they call me Mr. Tips, one of the most celebrated actors of his day, who got to be a little goofy in that movie as well.
Yeah, like the straight man who's sort of loosened up a bit. Yeah, it's really, really fun. If you've never seen Sneakers, it is 100% worth watching. If for no other reason than, there's a ton of reasons. But President Rosalind in her young, sexy ass self, the late River Phoenix, having a blast. Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd without Belushi for one of the first times, and like funny as fuck.
David Strathairn playing a blind computer hacker, and Robert Redford.
Robert Redford just being Charm City, man. And Ben Kingsley.
As the quote, like, spoilers, the bad guy.
Yeah. Such a good movie. Man, that's wait, and who's the other person? It's Betty White.
Bogdanovich, Peter Bogdanovich.
And we spoke about him. May I speak about someone in my world that passed away?
Please do.
Rob Bruce, who was our pop culturalist. He introduced me to the term pop culturalist. From time to time, I've used it on myself to be like, oh, I'm a pop culturalist. Pop culturalist Rob Bruce, who was one of the producers, a creative producer on Comic Book Men. Most of our seasons of Comic Book Men. He passed away recently. He's a Jersey resident, around from our neck of the woods. Had this great store called Groove Spot, and was very tight with Walter Flanagan, who ran the Secret Stash and star of Comic Book Men. And so Walter brought Rob into my world, and before the TV show, even he would talk about this guy. He's like, well, Rob Bruce has this, man. I haven't seen this in years, but Rob Bruce has a copy. So when we started Comic Book Men, we brought in Rob Bruce as like a consulting creative producer, and he was always around. Sometimes he was on camera with us. I can't remember how many episodes he was on with us, but he was an absolutely lovely dude with lovely families, great kids who were around when we shot the show. AMC at one point, when they started Comic Book Men season 1, they had a lot of like unscripted shows that they did that season, like a bunch of shows. And so after season 1 of Comic Book Men, I think it was, or maybe season 2, they were like, we're going to try to spin off Rob Bruce and his family, because they go to like swap meets and stuff like that. And they thought it was really interesting. So they shot like a sizzle reel, but then AMC killed its entire unscripted division except for like and The Talking Dead. And so it kind of went away, which I always felt bad about, because he did lead a really interesting life. This guy had everything you lost in childhood, he had in his store, and then later in his storage facility. But a wonderful dude, man, and died way too young, way too early, and alone, as nobody could die alone. So rest in peace, Rob Bruce. Thank you for helping me make my TV show. I mean, that's the thing. It's like I had for years, people were like, hey, I watch your show. And, I'd be like, thanks. But I was just one element on the show. And the least important, I would show up like toward the end of it. They would shoot that entire show without me, like all the stuff in the store or when the boys went off and did things. And then I would come in and just shoot for 2 or 3 days for a wraparound around the table. Like, and for that little work, I was afforded what was called my TV show. For all intents and purposes, people were like, "Oh, I saw your TV show." And Rob Bruce helped me make my TV show. But really, it was their TV show. I was just a guest on it. So I'm glad he got, it's not like everybody needs to be on TV or in the focus of the public eye or get a little attention, but for his expertise in the field, it was nice that we were able to showcase. I'm glad he was showcased. Everybody has something special about him, and we were able to showcase something that was really special about Rob. So we'll miss him around our parts and elsewhere. Rob Bruce passed away far too early. Amen. Okay.
So here's what's left on the docket.
Okay.
Boba Fett, which we have yet to talk about for reals. I can probably hold on to my top 10 of 2021 list for next episode because there's still honestly a couple of things I want to watch. Right. So we can do our second ad. We can get into Boba Fett, and then we can do Q&A. Does that sound good?
Let's do that. Let's do ad, and then we'll get into Boba Fett, and then Q&A.
Perfect. Our second ad, our other ad, because they're not second. They're right there first in our hearts, are the good boys and girls at Native.
Oh, we love Native. I just literally used Native products to shower this morning, kids. So I can vouch for these cats, man. I'm not ordering them as we speak because they send it to me for free all the time. It's a new year, and who doesn't want to make some easy changes to their personal hygiene routine to make it a little cleaner, man? That's where Native comes in. Native's aluminum-free deodorant and body washes are never made with parabens or sulfates, and they're both their customer favorite classic deodorant. Native also offers sensitive and plastic-free options. The sensitive formula is made without baking soda for those with more sensitive skin, and the packaging for the plastic-free deodorant is made of 100% paper board. That's considerate as fuck and smart. If you can't get enough of Native scents, try their body wash, man, or body wash, as Jason Mewes calls it. Available in 8 cents. Their body washes have a rich lather that leaves skin feeling moisturized and conditioned long after you take your clothes off and get in the shower and then get out of the shower and get dressed. You're still feeling it. Is that how the process works? I'm an alien from a different planet, and I'm explaining it for the first time.
As I've been told, yes.
Kick off this new year. To kick off the new year, Native has partnered with Baked by Melissa for a collection of scents inspired by Baked by Melissa's delicious cupcake creations, man. So you can choose from tie-dye vanilla cupcake, mint cookie cupcake, fresh peach cupcake, ginger lemonade cupcake to make your day a little sweeter, man. That means you'll be like washing up with scents that smell like cupcakes. You will smell like a bakery. And who don't want that?
That fresh peach cupcake sounds dirty and delicious.
It really does. Yeah, I mean, what a sexy choice for the good folks of Native in their collab with Baked by Melissa. This year, up your personal hygiene routine, kids, with Native. Go Native, man. Go to nativedeo.com/fatman. That is nativedeo.com/fatman, or use the promo code FATMAN at checkout. You're going to get 20% off your first order, man. That's nativedeo.com, kids, /fatman, or use the promo code FATMAN at checkout for 20% off your first order. We thank the good folks at Native for, as always, sponsoring our Fat Man Beyond. I'm looking at the actual product that they put out with Baked by Melissa, and the bottles look different. They're very colorful, very rainbow, very Baked by Melissa. We thank Native deodorant, ladies and gentlemen. Use them, please. We legit use them in this house. And when they stop sending me free product, well, I'll just buy it my damn self because I like it that much. I'm getting used to it. I've gotten used to it. I dig it. So there it is, kids. Native. Go. You know what? Go buy Native right now. We're gonna wait for the next 5 minutes while y'all make it. We'll sit here in silence. All right, let's talk about the Fett. Let's feed the Fett, or Fett the Fett, if you will. We had Dave Klein on earlier. If you guys are coming in late, the great Dave Klein, who's shot episode 1 of Boba Fett and shot episode 6 of Mandalorian season 2, where Boba Fett showed up for the first time in a long time. 2 episodes available right now on Disney Plus. This is spun out of The Mandalorian, as we saw Boba at the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian lay claim to the throne of Jabba the Hutt, and he's going to take over as an underworld leader of the underworld on Tatooine. And so what we were promised was a show set in the crime world of the Star Wars galaxy, and it seems to be what they're putting together. I love the show. Not saying a lot. I love everything. I'm not a very discerning customer and shit, but I watched it with my wife, who I had to talk into watching it, and she dug it at the end. She was like, "Oh shit, this is actually good." I was like, "Right now, will you watch Mandalorian with me? I'll go back and watch the whole fucking thing with you." I thought even hitting the ground running with Klein's episode, man, which has a lot of outdoor stuff, which is fucking gorgeous and legit looks like Star Wars. I was in. There's some shit that I was like, man, do we have to see his face so much? But by episode 2, I didn't care about seeing his face so much. Episode 2, I really feel like they got the wind under their wings, man. And suddenly something that they did in episode 1, which they did some flashback stuff to how he got out of the Sarlacc pit, which wasn't very far removed from how he got out of the Sarlacc pit in that old episode of an old issue of Marvel Comics that Star Wars did back in like 1983, 1984 that I absolutely loved, where he got out of the Sarlacc pit. He had no memory. He became like buddied up with Han Solo, and then he got his memory back and he was like, Solo, and then he got knocked into the Sarlacc pit again. And so he winds up right where he started. Perfect comic book story. Put him right where he fucking began, leave everything right where it was. But this did a similar thing where they're like, holy shit, he got out. I loved seeing that. I loved seeing him in the fucking Sarlacc pit. I loved seeing the fucking sail barge that was left behind. Of course, all the callback shit I absolutely loved. But what they started doing in episode 1 is they tell their current story of him taking over Tatooine, and then they flash back whenever he's in the Bacta tank to how he kind of got there, or how he got out of the Sarlacc pit, what happened to him in the intervening years, which I think is kind of smart because it lets you know, hey, there is a present to this show, but here's all the past stuff. You could have done a version where you just took him from the Sarlacc pit all the way to wherever they take him, but we know where he winds up, as we saw in Mando season 2. So it was an interesting choice to do what they did, and I am fascinated. Once again, Jon Favreau finds something in the Star Wars universe to dive deep on and make me appreciate more than I ever did before. He has absolutely embraced the Tusken Raiders, the Sand People, and is making a fucking pretty fascinating show. Very 70s. It feels so fucking like Kung Fu or Planet of the Apes TV show to me, about like, you know, this stranger from a strange land learning the ways of this culture, and them getting him back on his feet. You know, he's still a very interesting character, but like all throughout episode 2, I was like, I'd watch a whole fucking season of this, man. Who knew that I could spend so much time like with the Sand People? It just shows you like anything in a good writer's hands can turn it interesting again. So I love what they've done so far. I would like to see him keep his helmet on more in the present. I think I saw something about like, what's his name? Joe Johnson. Was that the guy who created? He said the same thing. I never would have took his helmet off. But it's not because I'm like, you know, oh, fuck, I don't want to see this guy. I mean, we do a whole other show where the guy doesn't take his helmet off. So clearly it could work. It's just, you know, I grew up from childhood with Boba Fett. And we never saw his fucking face until those prequels and stuff. So it was a little jarring at first for me in episode 1, where it's like, put your helmet on. He got in a whole fucking fight in episode 1 without his helmet on. I was like, oh my God, what are you doing, man? Put your helmet on. Like, I don't want to see some bald dude fight. I want to see Boba Fett fight. But by episode 2, that bias went away, where I was like, oh, I will watch this bald dude fight. I will fight. What's his name? Tamara Morrison. I will. Like, I'm in. I dig his performance. Episode 1, I was like, that's Aquaman's dad. Episode 2, I'm there. He's sucked me in. I think episode 2 was easily stronger than episode 1 in terms of the writing and stuff. Episode 1 just gets the thing up and running. But episode 2, it fully takes flight. I was in by episode 1, but episode 2, I was like, my interest was warranted. I can't wait to see where it goes. I thought we'd see some more killing, because when we saw him in Mando, he was gaffy sticking fucking stormtroopers to death. And for some reason in this show, he's like, I'm not going to rule with fear. I'm going to rule with respect. And it's like, yeah, but I'm hoping it's a bit of that coward of the county shit, where he's like, in the beginning, he's like, I ain't going to do it. But by the end, he's like, fuck. And he just starts cutting heads off and shit. We'll see. But if it don't come to that, I'm still in. I'm very satisfied with what they're giving me, man. In fact, enthralled. I watched episode 2 with the wife last night, and she's a great like fucking bar for this shit, because I'm like, I love it all. Oh my God, they showed a bantha, but she's a lot more discerning and whatnot, and she's like, I'm actually in. I was like, right? Fuck, man. So I'm digging Boba. You?
I know enough now through my experience with The Mandalorian to not judge a Star Wars show from this particular crew too harshly at the beginning, because I know that there's always a long game that they're playing, and that there may or may not be payoffs. I'm hoping there are. I will say, I did not expect my Boba Fett show to be so much about meetings, because lots of the front story of Boba Fett is, I'm going to go talk to this guy, and then we have a meeting. And then a bunch of guys are coming to my house, and then we're going to have a meeting. And then we're going to walk down the street to go have some more meetings. Then we're going to have a meeting in the street, and it's going to be a tense meeting. But it's a lot of like, just people talking about stuff.
Maybe that's why I love it. Maybe that's why I love it so much, because I'm like, this is Star Wars I could make. It's just people talking to each other.
And I did see a tweet where a guy was like, imagine how weird it would be if the first Star Wars show was about a stormtrooper, and then the second Star Wars show was like, here's another stormtrooper. Like, literally, these two guys, the two leads of these two shows, wear the same fucking helmet. And it's like, oh, so it's just another one of the guys in these helmets. Oh, they're a little bit different. Oh, really? Nobody else wanted to do a show about.
And as we know,
we'll get there.
As we know from the other show, he keeps his helmet on, of course, because he's a member of the religion, whereas Boba Fett is not a member of the religion. That being said, because there's some people who are like, hey man, fucking Boba, he gets to take his helmet off, you fucking dumbass, because he ain't fucking part of that cult, you fucking. I'm seeing a lot of that in chat. My point was, I grew up from 1983 forward with a Boba Fett who never took his helmet off. So,
right.
Yes, I met a Boba Fett who took his helmet off in the prequel trilogies, but I'm just saying, yes, I'm used to Boba Fett with his helmet. I understand, and as I said earlier, I'm okay with him taking his helmet off. By the time we get to the second episode, I was like, I'm way into it. But for the love of Christ, people.
I know what I'm about.
Yeah, what the fuck, man? Like, you gotta get corrected by a bunch of people being like, no, don't you fucking get it? He's not a part of the religion, you fucking dumbass. I'm like, I know. Anyway, back to Mark. He was talking. I told Mark I was gonna not interrupt him this year, people. And you fucking made me. Look what you made me do. Back to you.
You made me do it. I'm not as enamored with the flashback stuff, I think. Because
what?
the stuff in the second episode, the Boba of Arabia stuff, which it is 100% Lawrence of Arabia.
Somebody in chat, I wish I could find it, but they called it Dances with Sand People. And I was like, oh my God, that is like, I'm so stupid. As I watch it, I'm like, this is the most original thing I've ever fucking seen. And then all one person has to do is be like, it's Dances with Sand People. I'm like, that's why I like it. It reminds me of something that I like very much. But that's what he does. Just like George Lucas used to, bite from other storytellers or story themes or whatnot. here's Favreau doing a kind of similar thing, no?
Yeah, it's totally, I mean, it's very much like Lawrence of Arabia features, like one of its best scenes is Peter O'Toole leading the Arab army as they take down a British train, right down to like blowing it up and climbing on top of it. And then he gets the raiments of the Arab world and he looks pretty cool in it. Like, yeah, this is about them taking down a train because it's Lawrence of Arabia. And of course it is.
Wow.
Which, you know,
I never in a million years, but to be fair, I'm the guy who watched Don't Look Up and had no idea it was about climate change whatsoever. I'm not
So, yeah.
smart. I make art, but I'm not good at interpreting it or making it, depending on who you ask. Anyway, back to you, Mark.
Yeah. So like, and I understand what they're doing with the Tusken Raiders, and I understand the sort of reclamation project, I think, that sort of Favreau and Filoni and Robert Rodriguez and Dave Klein are doing, which is the Tusken Raiders have often been like this weird like sight gag or the simple savages of the Tatooine world, and they're actually giving them a culture. They're giving them, you know, stories and characters and religion and creeds and all of that stuff. Like they're making them real people, which I think is definitely worth doing. I think from a story perspective, I keep on wondering what this show wants to be. Like, does it want to be here's Boba Fett reclaiming Tatooine as, you know, making it lawful evil and not chaotic evil, or whatever he's going to turn it into, you know? And the story, it's like it's Godfather 2. It's young fucking Vito Corleone hammering order onto the chaos that was Lower New York when he forms, you know, what will eventually be the Five Families. Like it's. And that's cool. Like young mobster coming in, doing some new shit, changing the game. It's super fun. But then every time we cut back to like in episode 1, it was, you know, I think I texted you, it's like Django's Kid Unchained, where it's like, here he is, like he's in chains. He's being dragged along like he's a slave on a slave cart. And then he gets freed and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, I get it. This is how he gets in with the Tusken Raiders. And then this next episode is here's how he wins the hearts of the Tusken Raiders. Because at some point, Boba Fett will be alone and captured, and somebody will say to him, you know, there's nobody here on this planet who gives a shit about you. You made enemies with everybody. Like, you're going to die here in the sands alone. And he will say, oh, I'm not alone. And then up will rise the Tusken Raiders, and that's his muscle. The muscle will be the Tusken Raiders, of whom he is, you know, a sort of vaunted member of it. I get it. I see where it's going. But it's just the fuel-air mixture between the front story, which I'm invested in, and the back story, which is filling in blanks that, you know, I didn't need to ever see him in the Sarlacc pit, because much like the Kessel Run, like Solo, I think taught us quite a bit about like, maybe you don't need to see all the things that have been like writ as legend in the past, because it will never be cooler than they are in your imagination. You know, the Kessel Run was not as cool as it was as I thought it was in my head. The Sarlacc pit was not as cool as it was in my head. It was fine. Like, I get it, but I would rather have that.
You got better imagination than me, because I was like, oh, he's in it. He's being digested over 1,000 years.
But it's a thing that we already knew happened. Like, it doesn't add anything to the story because we already knew it existed. You know, and so it just became like, you know, not the worst kind of fan service, but it just became that. Like, I'm going to show you the thing that you're going to want to see. Like, all right, sure, I get it. Not surprising in any way, really, but you're just giving me the thing. Which, if you dig it, great. I personally didn't even need to see it. So I wanted to start to engage with its story a little bit more, less filling in gaps and more breaking new ground. You know, and it found me sort of wondering. You know, George Lucas was very much inspired by pulp storytelling. You know, and I think the cleanest version of that is A New Hope, which begins so fucking hot. Like, it starts with space combat. It starts with Vader assaulting a ship. It starts with the crazy escape of C-3PO and R2-D2. It begins with all of this drama and action and movement and acceleration. And Raiders does the same thing. Like, all of these old pulps that they were drawn from were breathless stories. And these don't feel drawn from that as much as they do Westerns, which is also fine. But this is another show where we're starting kind of slow, and we're going to slowly find our speed, and we will eventually accelerate, and we will build to a finale that's pretty cool. And I know we will, because nobody here doesn't know their job. Like, Favreau understands how to tell stories. Robert Rodriguez understands how to tell stories. All these guys are good at this job. But I just kind of was hoping for a different experience coming to this show and not like another version of the same experience.
My living dog came running in.
All good.
What about? Let's talk about the other Wookiee.
Yes, whose name I don't know because I never read the Star Wars books, but the Dark Wookie, who I saw like the internet lose its fucking mind, and I'm like, oh, that guy looks cool, but I don't know what he means. Is he from extended universe literature or something like that? Yeah, I think he was in.
Oh, yeah, here to tell us. It's Bamf Man.
I never read this, but apparently he's from the Dr. Aphra comic book series that everybody loves. That I guess Dr. Aphra is like the Indiana Jones of Star Wars, and the Wookiee is her, I don't know, Sala friend, you know, or her Marcus Brody,
and a couple of Hutts. Were they the twins?
The twins,
the twins, the brother and sister, who sat awfully close, who looked like each other. It looked like they were trying to honor the reimagination of Jabba the Hutt from the prequels. Like those Hutts look closer to that, which I kind of, in my mind, I was like, oh man, they're paying homage to like the wonky Jabba that replaced, you know, the human the first time before they got it down to a science. But I was happy to see a couple Hutts. I mean, it's Tatooine, so I guess it was a matter of time. I am so easy. I realize it. It's like basically, I look at that show and it looks like they have the entire set of action figures and all the toys lined up, and then they just pick out a few and put them on the board and go, and everyone's like, yeah. And that's, we wind up with shit. I didn't know, like when he gets the lizard up his nose and shit, and he becomes the Lizard King, he goes tripping the brain. And he goes to the tree where he pulls a stick and shit. All those eyes that lit up, it wasn't until the end credits when they were showing the production art that I saw they were all Jawas. I didn't know that. And, you know, when they were showing it, I was like, oh, they're all Jawas. And my wife was like, you didn't know that? And I was like, fuck, man, I'm getting old. You guys know that it was Jawas, those eyes lighting up?
Well, no. I mean, they were the ones who found him to begin with. Like the one who stripped his armor off of him. I was like, oh yeah, I guess they're Jawas again. But yeah, like, and like, I see what they're doing. I see the pieces they're putting into place. He comes into this town, and here, let's establish all of the various pressure points. Here's the mayor, who's going to be an asshole. Here's the club owner, who might be an ally, but probably won't be. Here are the Hutts, who are the big bads. Here's his little Major Domo robot, who seems like he's going to be a little shifty. Like, all of these things are eventually threats that he will have to at some point deal with in order for him to be the daimyo of Mos Espa. You know, okay, that's cool.
They also had Cammy and Fixer, who were two characters from the cut scenes of the first Star Wars, like they hung out with Biggs and Luke and shit like that. They're in this as well. Somebody here on chat, Mr. Ducksauce, says, this is about the Wookiee. Black Chrysanthemum, maybe that's how it's Krrsantan. Black Chrysanthemum was an exiled Wookiee from Kashyyyk who rose to the ranks of the underworld as a gladiator and then became a bounty hunter and guard for other scum and villainy. I mean, that's dope, man, when you're just grabbing deep cut shit like that. So even somebody like, I didn't know that. So some hardcore Star Wars. Did you know that, Bamf Man? Did you know who that guy was?
No, because I didn't ever read those. That's like a Disney era comic, and I've kind of like not kept up the same with when they were like, when Bob Iger was like, Star Wars has not yet begun to get marketed. And then they released like 4 million stories a month. I was like, I can't keep up with this. I'm too old. So I did not know that. Although I did recognize Fixer and Cammy, and that was my like, they saw the same thing off the Behind the Magic DVD that I couldn't wait to get in 1995, and I got it for my CD-ROM drive, and I saw it, and it was the best thing ever. Although people are saying that was the Tachi station. I don't believe it's the Tachi station, because if you watch the deleted scenes, they show you the actual Tachi station in those, which I think they have them on Disney Plus right now, and it's not the same building.
This would be years after the events in Star Wars, correct?
Yeah, it would have been like 8 years after.
So those characters it could be them, just in a different part of.
They've just, I mean, they're, instead of being 25, they're 35 or whatever.
Right.
But I don't think it's the same. Tachi Station didn't have a bar like that. Had like intergalactic pool tables. I don't think it's the same building.
Do you think they ever give us Biggs?
I mean, he dies in episode 4. So you'd have to do it
in Star Wars, in the battle.
Yeah, he dies at the end of episode 4.
Right.
Which, did you know he was in Tim Burton's the actor was in Tim Burton's Batman? He plays the dad Harold at the beginning as Biggs Darklighter.
The dad of Batman in the alleyway?
The dad of
the tourists.
Yeah, the dad of the tourists.
Get mugged in the alleyway, and Batman takes the muggers on the roof.
That's Darklighter. Yeah, I just found that out yesterday when I was watching Batman. Wild. So I guess
if it's not Tashi Station, is it meant to be Anchorhead? Wasn't that another fucking word in the?
Well, Tachi Station was like a hangout in Anchorhead. Can I give a hot take on power converters? If you read the Star Wars novel, everybody's like, Luke is going to the Tachi station to pick up some power converters, right? If you read the novel, apparently that was a lie that Luke was telling to his uncle. Meaning he wanted, and then Owen says, you can waste time with your friends when your chores are done. Luke is lying to his uncle, saying, I'm going to go to the hardware store to get stuff for the farm. And his uncle's like, no, you're not. You're going to play video games with your friend. But everybody thinks that Luke is just whining there, but he's actually lying to his uncle. Not actually, he never intended to go and pick up power converters. He intended to go and play video games or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I do think either way, he's whining.
He was going to go drinking. It was an excuse to go drinking kind of thing.
Yeah, he was going out to party. Do you think that they're going to add a build your own gaffy stick to Galaxy's Edge after that?
It would take a long time.
Yeah, the peyote side trip for you to go and have your vision quest to find the right stick.
It helps if you know how to bevel wood. I did like that scene though. I had no idea there was wood in a gaffy stick. I just thought they were like metal rods. But I dug all that.
The scene where he's making that, I pulled an image. It's straight out of Ralph McQuarrie, so I'll put that up if you see it. And
that's oh my god.
So
and that Ralph McQuarrie drawing was from 70s?
Yeah, ages ago. Yeah, 40 some odd years ago. And then they just took it and put it in the spot.
Wow. I mean, come on. They're having such a good fucking time over there. Like, just nerding the fuck out. Like, going like, ooh, let's replicate this deep cuts thing. Like, I guess it's like Dave said. He's like, every decision, they're like, what would George do? Where would George put the camera? And that's so dope, man. I enjoy it. Hats off to John Favreau. He's having a fucking good time. And if I went over Favreau's house as a kid, I would watch him play with his Star Wars toys. I wouldn't be in there. I wouldn't be like, well, no, he does this. I'd be like, what else does he do?
Yeah. I'm looking for, like the internet knows this. I'm just looking for it to become the thing that it's going to be. And first, early stages are always hard to judge because they have a plan and they're executing it at their pace and their speed. My personal taste is for a little bit more speed and more pulp. I think that the lack of a replacement for Baby Yoda, which did wonders for that first season of The Mandalorian, like, oh, this little slug, look at that fucking Baby Yoda. I fucking love that Baby Yoda. Don't you ever heard the Baby Yoda? We don't have no Baby Yoda yet. There's nothing here that I care that much about. Aside from maybe Fennec.
Boba hasn't given you a Baby Yoda yet.
I don't have an emotional core to this yet. It's all still very academic. It's all still very, I hope he can, unite the gangs, or I hope he can hold on to Jabba's palace because he seems to want it, although I don't know why. I hope he gets in good with the Tusken Raiders. They seem like nice folks, okay, sure. But I don't yet know the big story, the emotional story we're telling. And Baby Yoda was a perfect way to just, gloss over that with, if anything happens to that fucking baby, I will flip this metaphorical table and maybe a real one or two. So don't you fucking hurt that baby. So I miss that. I like Ming-Na as Fennec is a fucking badass. I will watch her kick ass and look mean all day long.
Wonderful.
She's great, and it again, they know how to make shit look great. The show looks amazing. Dave Klein is shooting the fuck out of it. The volume continues to astonish. It seems like ILM knows how to make a special effect or two. It's top of the line across the board.
For most of these first two episodes, though, they've been outside. They're in the desert. You can't fucking volume that shit. So that's a pain in the ass. So you can't control the sun and lighting and stuff. It's just everything is fucking lit.
Although there is a handful of, more than a handful, especially the first episode, of night scenes in the desert. And that, I think you can do in the volume. Oh,
those are definitely indoors. You get the distinct impression the night scenes are indoors.
Yeah.
In a not in a way where I'm disappointed, in a very Star Warsian kind of way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting. The jury is out.
What about the Rancor fake out? Does that mean
nice?
Does that mean we're going to see a Rancor by the end of the season? You don't, you don't introduce even an empty, unloaded gun without somebody wanting to use it, right? So,
it seems like also that cage feels big enough for not just one, but two Hutts.
Banff man, you're a big Star Wars kid. I always fancied myself a big Star Wars fan, but you take the cake from me. What was your take on Boba 1 and 2?
Boba 1 to me felt very much like a pilot episode instead of what I felt like it should have felt like, which is episode 17 of the Disney Plus Star Wars shows. If you go back and you rewatch the pilot episode of Seinfeld or Friends or anything, you're like, oh, how did I ever start watching this? This is not what the show should be. I felt like it was a little disjointed. I'm kind of the opposite of Mark, wherein I did read the story where Boba escapes the Sarlacc pit, which was an old, I think it was called Tales from Jabba's Palace or Tales of the Bounty Hunters that came out 20 years ago. And it was a 40-page story, and the entire story was him trying to escape the Sarlacc, and it was fantastic and amazing. And in this, I was like, the 40-page short story I wrote is 90 seconds on screen. I was a little, I would have liked to see the whole first episode be how hard it was to get out of the Sarlacc. Rather than you throw this thing, you climb out, and then you get saved by Tusken Raiders. So I think I was a little disappointed in that, and very disappointed in the fact that we saw Boba take out an entire squad of stormtroopers in Mando season 2, and then he got beat up by a bunch of the no-name Batman 66 thugs on the street of Mos Espa. Where I'm what happened, man? You just killed a whole bunch of stormtroopers, and these 3 dudes take you out, and Fennec's got to chase them over the roofs? What's going on here?
Let me tell you something. I believe with that comment, you went from Banff man to Banff bitch. Well done.
I did notice the weird depowering of Boba Fett. That seems unexplained because he didn't have a Bacta tank before he had his armor back, before he had Jabba's palace, and he was kicking fucking ass and taking names. And now, yeah, he gets rolled walking down the street.
But I think episode 2 really, like, I liked episode 2 twice as much as I liked episode 1. And I have heard some whispers of where they're going, and I think it will continue to move in that direction.
Let's conjecture. Do you think the Tusken Raider kid makes it to the end?
No.
You think
maybe that's your Baby Yoda? Maybe that's the straw that breaks the Boba's back. Is the, like, you killed that kid? You did what?
That'd be. Let me tell you something. If that's what happens, and he just like loses it and goes fucking like total rogue again, but it feels like, I don't know. It's too early to say it feels like, but it could be a case of Venom or where you got somebody who's an anti-hero, or you're trying to change a fan favorite into an anti-hero so you could keep that character going, make that character more vital. Harley Quinn went from a sidekick to one of the most important characters in the DC universe, and it feels like they're like, look, we want this Boba Fett to be around for a long time, but can't do it as a guy who just kills everybody and stuff. He's got to be a more complicated Tony Soprano type anti-hero. Anyone else get that vibe?
Yeah, I mean, and maybe the Tusken Raider stuff will explain his sort of shift in ethos of, like, he was just the dude who would, kill when somebody paid him to do it, and he had no moral compass or center that wasn't financially motivated. And then he meets Mando and meets the child, and then, like, has some sort of awakening, but that doesn't quite equate to, I want to rule with respect, not with fear. Like, well, fear is really good, though.
Yeah,
fear gets the job done. So yeah, just wondering the evolution of Boba since the Mando appearances is odd to me, and so hopefully they use some of that flashback stuff to explain it.
I feel like personally, as somebody who's been watching these things since the first one came out, this is the most excited I've been about Star Wars since I was a kid. And I enjoyed Force Awakens and the sequel trilogy and stuff, but I eagerly look forward to watching this show every week. I like I love what they're doing with Star Wars over there. It gives me a chance to fan out. I breathe rarefied air, and I got very lucky because I was a fan who got to make some shit. So, once you've seen behind the curtain, once you see how the sausage is made, maybe shit ain't as magical for you anymore. That's why I embrace those fucking Marvel movies, because those Marvel movies, they make me feel like what every person who hates me on the internet or every film critic would like me to feel like. Just a fan, not a filmmaker. I watch those movies and instantly I'm back in the audience, and there's no desire to be doing what they do. It's what's making me happy. Just like fucking Star Wars made me happy when I was a kid and shit like that. So I love what they're doing, man. We can sit here and pick and be like, well, they should, or they could, or why didn't they? But this is the most excited I've been for Star Wars like in a while. And I'm genuinely in love with how they're doing it. And this is the other thing. This is how I know, like, I dig it. I have no interest whatsoever in like, ooh, I want to do one of those. I want to be involved. Like, I love just consuming this shit. Like, it was really, I'll tell you, I should know better, but it was really fun to not know how the Banthas were moving and to literally have to ask Dave Klein to be like, how'd that shit work? Like, I should know how that works, but anything that allows me to recapture what brought me to the table in the first place, the magic of Star Wars and stuff like that, started a lifelong romance with the unreal, with movies, with make-believe, with sci-fi and fantasy. And it paved the way for the rest of my life, man. I like make my living off of goofy ass things that aren't true. And Star Wars will always be at the root of it, man. Not just being referenced in my flicks, but as something that made me want to play. Like first with action figures and then later on my own sets. But this Star Wars makes me want to sit and watch. And I'm so happy for that. It doesn't create in me any sort of like, sometimes I'll watch a thing and be like, well, I got to go to work on my shit because fuck it. And I feel competitive. I watch this, I don't feel competitive at all. I'm like, more. You're so good, Jon Favreau. Give me more. So I'm in. This would be hard they'd have to make some real dog shit to lose me.
Yeah. I mean, the thing of it is, like, for all of my nitpicking, I know that if The Mandalorian has taught me anything, is that by episode 4, it'll be amazing. You know, and it'll hit its stride. All of these things will pay off, and however they see them paying off, and you'll get some finale that you know both breaks your heart and spins you forward into new story. That's what season 1 of Mando did, and I similarly had issues with the first 2 or 3 of Mando. I now know this is their pattern, and so I can still have thoughts and feelings about how it executes, while also still knowing full well that by the time it kicks into gear, that I will find I don't even need to find a way to love it. They will make me love it. And so both things can be true at the same time, everybody. Both things can be true.
Do you think, Dave Filoni with Clone Wars did a great job of making episode 2 and episode 3 better? If you watch the entire Clone Wars series, the 2 live action movies get better. Is this... after watching this Tusken Raider episode, do you think if you go back and you rewatch episode 2, where Anakin Skywalker slaughters women and children Tusken Raiders, that you will now buy into his transition to Darth Vader more than you did in 2019 years ago when that movie came out?
No, but they better reference it now that you said it. Now I'm like, oh shit, that's right, man. Like maybe that'd be awesome if there was a scene where like they're doing that telling of the story, because they'd use kind of sign language, right? Like there's a version of sign language that the Tusken Raiders use. I think I read a story about it, but it'd be awesome if they told the story about the fucking time that this crazy fucking white boy came in and just killed the fuck out of everybody. Even the
for
kid.
No reason.
Yeah, like we didn't know what happened. This guy just came in, swamp.
It's a little bit like I Am Legend, right? Like in the comic book of I Am Legend, the zombies, like Will Smith is the legend. He's like their boogeyman. It's like Anakin is the Tusken's boogeyman.
But they're saying in chat that people who are far more observant than us, that is a different Tusken tribe. Especially in look. We could tell by the look in Boba Fett. They're dressed completely different than those Tusken Raiders and stuff. We get that, but it doesn't mean there couldn't have word hasn't. Come on, kids. These fucking kids on the internet who are like, can't happen because it's this. And it's like, can't we just, this ain't even real. Can't we just make pretend?
I'll justify it. They talk about the Junland Waste. Your tribe has been in the Junland Waste for centuries. Now, we know that the other Tuskens going from the Lars homestead were from the Junland Waste also. So maybe it's 2 tribes, but they occupy the same plot of land, in the same desert on the same planet. I'm sure, Joe Bob Tusken Raider comes across Sam Tusken Raider and is like, watch out for the white guy on the speeder bike,
Yeah, did this ever happen to you? And then tell a horrific story about how a kid showed up on a bike, killed everybody, and fucked off because he was feeling poorly about himself. I hope it's reference. If it's not, that's fine. But like when you said it, suddenly I was like, oh yeah, man, perfect opportunity to reference that part of the lore and stuff.
Yeah, like an actual Jedi came and killed my cousin.
Yeah.
That news would spread.
Would they know that guy grew up to be Darth Vader? Or would Boba Fett be the one to tell him? He'd be like, I work with that man. His name was Darth Vader. That's my bad version of his Kiwi accent. Is he
It's
from?
great, though.
Thank you. Is he from New Zealand? Is that what that is?
He
Yeah.
is, yeah.
And that is Aquaman's dad, correct?
Mhm.
It very much is.
First episode, the whole time I was just like, when he takes off his helmet, it's Aquaman's dad, and he's just waiting for Nicole Kidman to come back. That's how you could
Just
quell
waiting
this
for my
whole thing.
wife.
That's what's going to happen in episode 7. Nicole Kidman's going to come out of the ocean. He's going to be like, goodbye. He's going to fuck off back to the White House.
It turns out I do love Lucy. And then off she goes.
A lot of people are griping about wood. Like, how are they burning fires on a desert planet? But they also, in a line of dialogue in this, talk about when the oceans disappeared, which explains all of that.
I love that. I'd never heard that before in Star Wars. I was like, holy shit, they used to have water on Tatooine? Like that, is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a new notion, right?
I think so. I mean, it's the first time it's been canonized.
In his vision, didn't he see like water or the ocean or something like that?
Yeah, like the waste, the Jundland wastes were waves.
And they
Crashing.
also mentioned the Dune Sea, which made me very fucking hard. I was like, oh, heard that
Caladan.
before. They said the thing that was like the thing.
My penis is so easily pleased.
When it comes to this shit, it really is. I mean, this guy cracked the code as far as I'm concerned. I don't give a shit if people are like, he's just playing with action figures. I'm like, good. I like the way he does it. I like the way Favreau and Filoni fuck, man. But this is Favreau just on this one, right?
I mean, I think Filoni is in the room.
involved, but Favs is writing the scripts. I've seen he wrote the first 2 scripts by himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm in. That's the other thing. It's like when I watch everything I've watched them do now in Star Wars, and this includes JJ as well. Never once have I ever been like, oh, I would have or could have or I thought of that. Like each time I'm like, man, I would never fucking think of that. Like, what a good idea. And yes, I mean, I hadn't thought while watching it that it is Lawrence of Arabia and it is Dance of the Wolves, but I'm like, steal from the best. I hadn't fucking thought of that. That was a fucking cool idea that made characters that, you know, I've been around since I was a kid. One of the first Star Wars action figures I ever had was the plastic fucking caped Tusken Raider. And suddenly they made them viable and relevant where I'm like, give these fuckers a whole series, man.
Ooh, we saw Spice too.
Yeah, what was with this that I was talking about? The same Spice that like Han Solo dumped back in the day. Is that the
The
Spice
Spice Mines.
Yeah.
of Kessel?
Yeah, you got to see it open and go up into the air and stuff. Like, that's the first time we've seen it physically. And that's goes way back to one of the first lines of dialogue in Star Wars.
Wow. I mean, they're doing the Lord's work over there, man. Happy with it. Can't wait to see where it goes. My only complaint, man, fuck this weekly shit. Just blah, blah, blah. But you know,
Standard refrain.
gives me something to look forward to. And my wife is actually like, when's that on again? She asked me the other day, she's like, when's new Boba Fett on? I'm like,
It gives us stuff to talk about for 7 weeks.
yeah.
I mean,
As opposed to
Disney's very good to us. Disney is very, very good to us.
This show, God, no matter what they do, we should just be like,
Keep it coming.
only thing we have to talk about. Yeah, man. All right. So that covers Boba for a red hot minute.
What do we have after Boba's done? What's next on the...
Andor, Obi-Wan are both 2022. Boba or Mando season 3 is probably end of 2022, and then Ahsoka.
That's what Dave was shooting when he left us. Dave is going back to work like literally in the other room on season 3 of Mando. So yeah, that'll be coming fairly soon too. And Ahsoka, when do they start?
I think they start as soon as Boba wraps filming.
Wait, so Boba's still filming?
Or
No,
sorry, not
Boba's
Boba. Mando.
Mando.
Too many O's. Too many O's and A's.
Yeah. So when, like, because this is going to wrap 7 episodes. So by what? End of February, we'll be done with Boba.
Oh, and
so
Bad
then
Batch
what's-
season 2 is coming out this year too.
Yeah. So we get like Ms. Marvel and Andor and Kenobi and Willow, I guess. The Guardians holiday special, whenever that's showing up.
This from chat, Dark Knight 0627. This is just interesting little factoid. More like this, man. The galaxy doesn't find out that Anakin was Vader until the Leia novel Bloodlines, which was 11 years after the Battle of Endor, way after Mando and Book of Boba Fett. So no, the whole world don't know that, the whole galaxy doesn't know that Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader were the same person. That's interesting.
Well, Ahsoka,
that's a kind of factoid that'll get you fucking laid.
I bet you, I mean, Ahsoka doesn't know in Clone Wars, in Rebels, Ahsoka doesn't know. She's starting to figure it out.
Remember when she fights him in fucking, which one was that?
Rebels.
Oh, man. Where he's like, Ahsoka. And she's like, Anakin? Still gives me chills. We might see that. Like a live action version of that. Is that possible?
In flashback. I mean, if they've got Hayden Christensen back for Obi-Wan, why would you not at least give a taste?
Really? Do like a live action version of one of the greatest fucking Star Wars scenes of all time that has never been in a live action version of Star Wars.
But isn't he also like he's I thought that it was announced that he was also in Ahsoka and that he was going to do both.
Announced?
Like I thought it was.
Then the likelihood is increasing.
Indeed. That he was going to be Vader in Ahsoka and probably a Force ghost potentially in Kenobi.
I don't know what's next.
Maybe,
I don't know what's next on Disney Plus, but is Peacemaker starting soon on HBO Max?
The 15th, I think.
That shit looks great. Every trailer I've seen, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so fucking there. It looks enjoyable as hell, man. I can't wait to watch that. And then what? What's the next Marvel movie?
I think it's Doctor Strange.
And that's what, May?
I think it's May. And then I think Ant-Man Quantumania is this year. And then Love and Thunder is this year also.
We're getting 3 fucking Marvel movies this year?
Yeah. Yeah.
Another fucking 3 good reasons to stay the fuck above the ground, man. God damn it. What about the TV shows? Isn't She-Hulk this? No, Moon Knight. Isn't Moon Knight happening soon?
She-Hulk, Moon Knight, and Miss Marvel are all probably happening in 2022. And then Secret Invasion is TBA. What If Season 2 is TBA as well, or TBD.
I know we have so much to complain about, and fucking if you ever go to Twitter, it's just the complaint department and shit. But like, we do live in a timeline where like we're getting 3 Marvel movies this year. And I'm sure you could be like, look, there's a timeline where we get 12. And I'm like, all right, well, take me to that best of possible world. But for right now, you know, there are good things too. It's all bad. Omicron is bad, but fucking Marvel's still doing good.
Also getting the Batman this year. This website says Wakanda Forever. Is that coming out this year or was that pushed?
I thought it was pushed to 2023, but I don't know.
Flash movie comes out this year as well?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, man. Like, there's a lot of, they're trying, I think what feels like for 30 years, people have been trying to get me out of the director's chair. Like, you suck. Stop making movies. I think they figured out how to do it. Just make a bunch of good shit that you want to see, man. Tell you, the one movie I look most forward to this year, Clerks 3.
Yeah, baby.
And I've seen it.
It is good.
This guy's in it. Fucking, if he plays his fucking cards right, this guy's in it. That's gonna be a magical movie, but that's months and months away. I honestly probably look forward more to Doctor Strange, just because I love that Wanda story. Oh my God, I can't wait to see Elizabeth get grief stricken again. I can't wait to see her Wanda it up.
Wanda it up. I feel like maybe next episode will be a look back, look ahead episode where, we'll do the top 10s and then we'll do the shit we're most excited for. A sort of calendar rundown of the shit coming down the pike in 2022.
That's a good idea. Unbox Cylon 98 said, Sandman season 1. That's fucking this year. This could be the greatest year of our lives. And I say that as a man with an adult child.
We need just like a holiday for the year where it's like there's so much great stuff coming out. Everybody take the year off.
Yeah.
People are yelling at me in chat. Raimi's Strange. We started by talking about that. We started by saying that's in the future. Black Adam, they're pointing out. Did you hear they're in talks with Seth Rogen to play Ben Grimm? Somebody said in chat. I didn't hear that. Is that true?
Didn't hear that either.
Wow, man.
Oh, Spider-Verse 2 is also
yes,
isn't it?
And that trailer looks and Spider-Verse 2 is part 1 of 2. Part 1 of 2. So it's not even like, oh man, we're gonna get that amazing movie and then be like, when's the next one? They're like, the next one comes out like when the sequel comes out pretty damn soon. Oh yeah, what a great year, man. Matt Wagner's
is probably coming out.
Grendel is coming to Netflix.
It will indeed, in some fashion or another.
Boys season 3. Now we're just reading shit off the internet. But I mean, these are all the things. Sometimes you need this, man. Particularly like, as the fucking COVID numbers are rising again, looking for a little sunshine. Holy shit. Like, let's just make it through this cron nonsense, man. There's, I do what you want, but like knowing that all this was ahead of me, I'll take as many vaccinations as they fucking give me, man, because I want to see all this shit. God damn, this shit looks good, man. Umbrella Academy season 3. Oh, we didn't even watch Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai, what, season 4 or 3? 4. 4 just dropped fairly recently. So hopefully by the next time we get together again, I will have binged Cobra Kai season 4 because I have loved seasons 1, 2, and 3. So I look forward to, maybe we'll talk about that next week if I get to do them all. I don't know if I can bring my wife into that show 4 seasons in. Feels like a kind of thing you would have to
start from the jump.
Or at least I'd want to start her from the jump. Number 1, she's my wife. I like jumping her. Number 2, I'd want to bring her to the beginning of that amazing show to see like how it was built. Like I remember falling down the rabbit hole and being like, oh my God, like they found a way to make a fucking show about the Karate Kid that I can't not watch. Some gifted storytellers out there doing some cool things, and they're all coming in 2022. So yay.
What about that Elvis movie too? Isn't that in 2020?
Fuck yeah, the Baz Luhrmann Elvis picture. Oh my God. You know how many movies Elvis made in his life?
Tell me.
I forgot already, but there were a lot. Closer to the trip, I remembered everything, but now it's starting to slip away. But I'll remember when I see that fucking new movie with Baz Luhrmann and shit. All right. This is a part of the show, kids, where we answer questions. We do a little Q&A. People seem to enjoy this part of the show. When we do it live, it's fun. People win shit. Do it here streaming.
You just win the honor of a good question.
It's true. You don't get a prize, but you do get the satisfaction of knowing you made the show better. The questions aren't picked by me or Mark, man. We leave it in the hands of Banff Man himself, or should I say Banff bitch. So Banff Man, tell us, what would the folks, the good folks who watch Fat Man Beyond like to know this week?
All right. We've probably done this one before in the past, but, with the release of Book of Boba Fett, I think we can revisit. Die Avalon wants us to answer, if Dave Filoni approached you to create a new 8-episode Star Wars themed Disney Plus show, which story do you pick? What character? What story?
It'd be tough because honestly, I think I would say no, because like I like this shit too much, and like it's like I know what people get paid to make things, so I know, like, if I did a show like that, it wouldn't be for free, and I could make a chunk of change. and this is gonna sound like bullshit, but like I can make a similar chunk of change doing other things, and it'd be more important to me to maintain like that thing's role in my life as an entertainment that fuels me rather than an entertainment that I need to then create. And it's not purely altruistic. I'll be honest with you. Who the fuck wants to deal with the pressure? Like, you know, maybe if you'd asked me prior to, you know, Masters of the Universe and stuff, but like, I've been at the receiving end of people who are not happy when you don't play with their toys the way they want them to be played with. So I've loved Star Wars my whole life. I love this current incarnation of Star Wars. It makes me so happy. I don't want to risk losing that. It wouldn't be worth the money. It wouldn't be worth the high profile gig of people being like, finally, he gets to make a Star Wars and shit. Like, George Lucas created all this stuff. And he made some movies, and years went by, and then he's like, you know what? Like, I think I'm going to go back. I think it'd be so much fun to play with my toys again. And like, people made George Lucas feel so bad about, you know, what he did with Star Wars that he sold it to Disney. He was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I saw an article somewhere where he was like, it's not, he didn't say this was the reason, but he talked about the feedback, and he was like, wasn't like worth like that kind of heartbreak and stuff. So I'm not saying poor little rich man, like, or feel bad for the rich guy, but Star Wars was his heart. And, you know, and then it became hugely commercial and stuff. And then he tried to get back to his heart. And then a bunch of people were like, Jar Jar, you're a fucking idiot. And then he was like, what's the point? And he just kind of like got rid of it. And, you know, now it's in the hands of people who are doing, and they're bringing him in, sounds like, and everything's being done the way George would have, or, you know, there's a huge consideration for George. I don't know. It's just, to me, it wouldn't be, I know this is a fantasy game, so we'll eventually play the fantasy version, but it wouldn't be worth it to me. Like, it's more valuable to me as something that I could look forward to from the outside. You know, it's nice to have a little mystery in my life where I'm like, I don't know, fucking, like, I know Dave Klein. He don't tell me shit about that fucking show. He's terrified of getting fired. So like, it's something that I don't have, you know, access to or hear about. It's just something I get to enjoy like every other fucking normal ass person in the world, man. No privilege here whatsoever. I'm sitting in seats just like everybody else. And that's valuable to me. There aren't many things that make me feel that way. Marvel and Star Wars, both fucking Disney locked them both up, man. The mouse has my fucking dick and heart. They have that power for me. So like, I'm happy to make Kevin Smith shit. That being said, in this fantasy world where like every other talented filmmaker is fucking dead, and they're like, it's up to you. It's like fucking Battlestar Galactica, and I'm where they've gone through the entire DGA roster, and they're like, it's you and Yui Bowl. So here we are. What would you do? Let me see. What would I want to do? I don't know. I mean, now I would be inspired by what they do, because like my answers in the beginning probably would have been very basic, but now I'm like, look at the possibilities. Look at the deep dive you could do on characters. I guess the point of this is I'm not even fucking imaginative enough to give you a response to the question in this Q&A, let alone be handled the fucking reins of a show. And that's what I think about when I watch that show, each and every episode. I know some people in chat have broken it down to be like, come on, man, Mandalorian, he goes to a town, he fights a monster, he goes to the next town, fights another monster. How hard is that? I watch these shows and I would never think to do anything that they do. Never once have I seen something where I'm like, yeah, I saw that coming. And it just makes me happy. So proof positive that I couldn't do it is I can't even fucking think of a show that I would like to do. I'm sure if I look at chat, a bunch of people have suggestions for me, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, you could do this, you could do this. I assure you, whatever it would have been a chatty fucking thing. No action whatsoever. If there was some, it would have been a lot like that scene in Mandalorian. You saw my Star Wars. That scene in Mandalorian with two dudes in the stormtroopers are talking to each other and punching Baby Yoda in the bag. It's pretty much what I would have done.
What if you did Star Wars What If, though? Because that runs adjacent. So if anybody's like, I don't like what you did to Lando, you could be like, it's What If, man. You could play. That's like you almost can play.
You almost had me, but the problem is there will still be a reaction to me playing with toys that are not mine. Look, I can do anything the fuck I want with Jay and Silent Bob, guilt-free with Dante Randall. And if anyone goes, hey, you did it wrong, I'm like, you are out of your fucking skull. It's whatever I do, as long as I walk this earth for my characters, is fucking canon, for heaven's sakes. So, like, you know, that goes without saying for my work. For me to, as I've learned, for me to go into somebody else's room and be like, oh, these are fun, this is how I would do it, you're going to have a host of fucking opinions. And the difference is someone could have an opinion about what I do with my characters. I don't give a fuck. That's my world. Someone has an opinion about what I did with characters that were not mine, that I'm playing with. I can't help but give a fuck about. I know I'm not equipped to work on somebody else's shit based on what I went through with Masters of the Universe. Like, everyone else in the business was like, what do you give a shit? A bunch of people on the internet like don't like. I'm like, you don't get it. Like, that's where I live. That's my world. Like, that means something to me. And so the idea of possibly losing that with something that I love dearly, like fucking Star Wars or Marvel, not necessary whatsoever. Over to you, Mark.
I think for me, the key is finding a pocket of that universe that you can play in where there's some latitude, that's a character whose name every Star Wars fan knows, but has not a ton of information about. And yes, this guy has been in some novels and he's made it onto a few iterations of cartoons, but I think there is a story to be told that is Star Wars Antilles. I think the Wedge Antilles story gives you a lot of juice. I think he survives all of the Luke Skywalker stuff. I think he was an escaped, Imperial fighter pilot who defected from the Imperial Navy and then brought all of that knowledge with him to the Rebel Alliance.
Is that true?
Yeah. He was one of the founders of Rogue Squadron with Luke Skywalker. He led the assault on Death Star 2 as the leader of the new Red Squadron. Yes, sir.
Where'd you get that fucking, he was a former Imperial ship from?
That checks out, doesn't it, Bathman?
I don't know. I know Wedge's like way backstory, which was what I wanted to do, but I'll internet it. Wedge's way backstory.
Yeah, what is that?
Was, I believe, and I could be wrong, but I think I'm right, that his parents owned a gas station, like a where starships filled up, and they were killed by Imperials of some sort, and that then he went out. And I wanted to do like Wings, like the show Wings, but it was like the Antilles parents' gas station, and the little boy grows up to be Wedge.
Yeah, I according to Wikipedia, and whatever it's worth, it says before defecting to the Rebel Alliance, Antilles was an Imperial cadet, call sign TIE SS-25 of the Skystrike Academy, before defecting and founding Rogue Squadron with Luke Skywalker.
So when's that? When did they do that?
I think that's been in some books and stuff like that, but that would have been between, I guess, but it's pre-Rogue One in the timeline.
All before Force Awakens?
Yeah. I mean, it's before New Hope.
Yeah, it would have been around a New Hope time.
In the world. Yeah. No, as released to the world. The notion of a stormtrooper flipping sides to me was introduced in Force Awakens. But what I'm hearing here is this happened in the lore, like in some fan fiction or some extended universe fiction long before.
It was in Star Wars Rebels, season 3, episode 4, The Antilles Extraction, in 2016. is where that was established.
And is that before Force Awakens?
Yeah, that's a couple years before A New Hope.
No, you're missing.
Yeah, but in release order, yeah.
I'm talking about.
In release order.
In release order. Who had the idea first is what I'm saying. I thought JJ was the guy who had the idea to be like, oh, a stormtrooper who flips sides.
Yeah. Force Awakens is 2015.
In Star Wars, in the world of Star Wars, JC, or in the cartoons, was there ever a stormtrooper that went good?
No. Well, but Wedge wasn't a stormtrooper. He was a pilot that went good, which in other backstories of Han Solo had done the same thing. And I know like Biggs went to the Imperial Academy and flipped sides, but I don't know if there's a stormtrooper like the Grunt, the infantryman, that had done it.
In chat, they're saying Filoni had the idea first, so it must have been.
Yeah, I mean, release order is Force Awakens and that episode of Rebels, but who knows how long that those things had been sort of in concert with each other. So yeah, but I think that's an interesting trajectory. I think, basically it's an Air Force show. It's about, a guy who leaves the bad guys and joins the good guys, brings all his skill with him, and then sort of lives in the shadow and finds a way to thrive in the shadow of Luke Skywalker, who shows up out of nowhere as the hero of the Rebel Alliance. And whether there's competition, whether there's resentment, whether there's eventual sort of coming to terms with it, and then friendship, and then, what happens to my friend at the end? Like now he's a fucking Jedi. Like he's never get behind the wheels of an X-wing anymore. He's not a fighter pilot anymore. He's a goddamn cult hero. How I carry on the mantle of what Luke started, and how I just keep on flying. I just got to stay in the air, or stay in the skies, whatever that is. I think there's a show there, and I think it's also a dude who has a very unique perspective, but a different perspective on all of the giant events of the Prime trilogy. It's kind of fascinating.
He's kind of like the Hawkeye, right? Like if Luke and these wizards are, Wedge is the guy who's like, I just have a spaceship and I shoot things.
I just drive this car.
Here in chat, John Riegelman saying way before Filoni, it was in the books. So it was a lot of the stuff you could trace back to the extended universe books.
Yeah, I know Chuck Wendig put him in one of, I think, Aftermath. He's in that book.
I mean, in the old canon books, he becomes a senator in the New Republic.
Mm.
As per usual, chat came up with a number of suggestions for Star Wars that I could do, where I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. Somebody's like, why not do a Cheers set at the Cantina? I was like, oh yeah, that would make sense. I could do that. That's a way I could do Star Wars and not fucking break anything. Somebody else said Tag and Bink, which is the wonderful Kevin Rubio book about essentially it's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, but these two fucking knuckleheads who wind up at every important moment of Star Wars history. I would absolutely do that. And there you go. I wouldn't be creating it. I'd be basing it on what Kevin Rubio did. So in that instance, I could get my head around it. It's already been preconceived for me. All I have to do is shoot it. Although, as we heard from Dave today, every episode is preconceived. I found that fascinating. He was just like, the entire thing is pre-vised out in order for them to light the volume and shit. That's crazy. That's seeing the movie before the movie is even seen.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably more akin to animation than it is live action, because there it is. We saw it all before we render it with actual people.
All right. Did you even answer?
I did. I said Wedge.
Wedge. That's right. And also, but you did say Wedge Antilles. Is his last name Antilles?
Yeah.
What's the name of the guy who owned the droids?
Antilles.
Captain.
But as somebody with the last name Smith, you come across a few Smiths.
Yeah.
Antilles is like the Smith of Star Wars.
The Smith of Star Wars?
Sounds spacey.
There you go. There's my project, the Smith of Star Wars. It's about how all these Antilles, it's about a guy named Antilles, and everyone's like, oh shit, you're the one that fucking, helped Luke Skywalker. He's like, no, man, I just got his last name.
Or it's the dude whose name is Luke Skywalker. who's not actually Luke Skywalker. He's like, but I run this fucking gas station. My name is Luke Skywalker.
Basically, I just want to make the Big Lebowski in the Star Wars universe, which seems like that's what they're up for. Maybe that's how I do it. Maybe that's my way in. You know how like they're like, well, episode 2 of Boba Fett is, Lawrence of Arabia, and Star Wars is Kurosawa influence and stuff. How they're always pulling from classic cinema or older cinema. I could just pull from fucking Clark's, not even the cantina, man. It's just like a bodega in Mos Espa, where fucking there's a human guy and one guy who's, I don't know, fucking, you tell me, Jawa, I don't give a shit. We'll figure it out. And they're, people come in, people come out. All the shit of Star Wars happens right outside the door. And they talk about it. They're like, oh shit, look at that IG unit with a little weird green guy on his back. He's shooting all the stormtroopers.
It's fucked up, right?
Yeah, but they don't fucking walk 10 feet to go engage.
Want to go outside? Why would I go outside? What the fuck am I going to do out there?
All right. That's a great question, man. That would have gotten some shit at the bar. Good shit.
Kevin Rubio texted me. He says, let Kevin know that I give him permission to do the Tag and Bink show.
Oh,
so you've got an endorsement.
Me and Rubio, the two Kevs, we're going to make that happen at Disney Plus. We're going to go into Favreau and Filoni and be like, Tag and Bink. And they're going to be like, there's the door. I bet you both of those dudes know that book and really love that book, though.
I think
you can't not love Tag and Bink. You can't not love Star Wars and not enjoy that book. It was such a clever concept.
You know what I bet? If the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special does well, that wouldn't be off the table. Like something that's kind of like canon adjacent. It's like silly and fun. Do it all on the volume for cheap.
Pete Den Cat said, but isn't Jay and Silent Bob a tribute to C-3PO and R2-D2? That's what I was told by a very smart film journalist when I was showing Clerks back in 1994. And I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Yes, it's exactly what they are. That's what they became. They certainly weren't in Clerks, but they became that throughout the rest of the movies. Anthony Perrone in chat said, Jeff's Antilles kiss.
Oh, sweet.
All right, where are we going next?
All right. Junis Moisio says, I'm a huge fan from Finland. Boba Fett was resurrected by Favreau in a big bad way. His question, which dead fictional movie character would you bring back from the dead to wreak havoc? So it wouldn't, not necessarily Star Wars, but somebody who's died that you'd want to reinvent.
Can I pitch you this excellent idea that I've always had that I wanted to see? And this would make so much fucking money if you did it.
Do it.
You make a Spider-Man movie and you bring back the Green Goblin. You bring back Doc Ock. You bring back every villain that he ever fought and killed, man. Who wouldn't see that movie?
Never happened.
Don't shit on my dreams, Mark.
It's too hard.
What character that's dead? Darth Vader. Fuck.
Duh.
We didn't get enough of him, man. Like, now they did one of the coolest things they ever did with that character after he died in Rogue One. I want more of that. I want to see that guy slicing and dicing. Who else would I like back? I mean, it's too late now because he's all older, but Jack Nicholson's Joker, I always thought it was a real dumb move to fucking kill off the Joker, but that's set the tone for all those movies where they started like killing his arch villains at the end. And it's like, have you guys ever read the comics? Like he puts them in a place, they get out, rinse, repeat. We do it again. Let's see. Who else has died that I would bring back? I don't know. Over to you, Mark, while I think of something.
The one that popped into my head, because it is hard because in most of the things that we like, they don't actually kill people. They're often, cast out, they're put in prison or whatever, but comic book literature, science fiction literature, nobody's ever really dead. But I would love to see a Khan story where Khan is brought back from the dead in Star Trek 2.
Khan. I think the Kong. I'm like, we just had a fucking Kong thing.
That's a Khan shit. Come on.
Khan, yeah, bring Khan back from the dead.
Yes, but like not Benedict Cumberbatch, but like, you know, an actual
Cumbercon.
But an actual like real Khan. And also I think there could be a scary story in Jack Torrance, who it turns out did not die in a garden. You know, that he got resuscitated, that he, whatever the fuck it was, he's evil and there's supernatural shit afoot. Like maybe he just didn't die in a hedge maze. And so what happens to young Danny Torrance when his father shows up again? Very, very angry at him.
It'd be cool if they brought back Michael Myers.
Haven't seen him in a movie in a while.
I don't mean the fucking Halloween guy. I mean
the Love Guru.
Yeah, the man's good. I miss him. He's funny.
What about the Flying Graysons come back to life, but they're like evil, like the Royal Flush Gang, and Nightwing has to go out and figure out who this gang is that's terrorizing the city, and through the course of 8 episodes, you know, towards the end, he discovers it's his family who he thought was gone, who set him on the path to become Nightwing. And then he has to deal with, oh my God, my arch enemy is my mom and dad.
I was just about to look for money to throw at you. I would buy your comic book, sir. I'm interested in that.
So bad.
In chat, some folks are saying Michael Bookman said the Vega brothers, Tarantino verse. Jeff Key in the chat said that Jack Torrance died in the boiler room.
In the novel?
In the book, yeah. But, you know, I like the idea that, I mean, you get to do the notion of continuing The Shining always intrigues me. They just did it recently, and then didn't Jay was talking about doing one? Is that gone now?
The Overlook as a TV show. I think it might be sort of in a limbo where it's not entirely dead, but also not entirely alive. It's in development, as Hollywood likes to say.
Unboxed Cyclone 98 says Elvis. Yes.
Do it.
Bring this man back so he can make his 32nd film, not counting the concert movies. He made 31 films, Mark. I remembered.
There it is, in a relatively short amount of time.
In a crazy short amount of time. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, man. Oh, Trey Watson has a good one. Leonardo DiCaprio's character in The Departed. I hated that he fucking died in that movie. Like, it really not pissed me off where I was like, fuck you. But like, I was really like, no, come on, man. This kid was finally getting some shit together. Things are going to work out. He got his man. You know, he's fucking maybe going to work things out with Vera Farmiga. Boom. Oh, that was shocking to me. And I'd seen fucking, what was it? Not City on Fire.
Infernal
Affairs. But still, man, anyway, I agree with that. Bring that fucker back. Because I would have watched a few more movies with him. God, The Departed is a fun movie. You know what? I know what I'm doing tonight.
Also, Leonardo DiCaprio's character from Titanic. Fucking Rose. There's plenty of room on this door.
Could you imagine? The movie begins with like, it's like fucking Boba Fett. He just out of the water. Rose! You know?
And then Rose Bukater DeWitt spends the rest of her life on the run from Jack Dawson.
Oh shit, they're like Titanic reconceived as only Guillermo del Toro. Speaking of which, have you seen his movie?
Nightmare Alley? Yeah.
Holy the fuck. What?
It's really good.
It's insanely good, and it's also one of the darkest films I ever watched. And when we were all done watching, I was like, why did I like that so much? And Jennifer was like, it's like a very well-made version of Tusk. And I was like, you're right. It's just like
there it is.
Fucked up and dark and weird and shit. Not like same thing, but just in the same realm of like, this is fucking like I loved it, but when it was over, I turned to my wife. I was like, who did he make that for? And she's like, the same people you made Tusk for. I was like, you're absolutely right. Like it's so dark and so specific, yet so insanely well made. And in a better timeline, this would be a movie everyone has seen and everyone is talking up as like a possible best picture contender.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to make a big push for it because it has all of those things that voters love.
They got to push hard though, because ain't nobody fucking talking about this movie, which is a damn shame.
I mean, but I don't know who's talking about any Oscar movie at this point because nobody's seen very much.
I mean, there's a lot of chatter around Don't Look Up, of course.
Right.
And Way of the Dog. A lot of Way of the Dog chatter. Have you seen the Tammy Faye movie yet with Jessica Chastain?
I have not.
They'll both probably get nominated. Andrew Garfield and her are wonderful in it and stuff.
I am watching Riders of Justice. Have you seen this movie? It's a Norwegian movie starring Mads Mikkelsen as a soldier whose wife gets killed in a train accident. And then he gets confronted by a couple of like computer geeks who've ground the numbers and figured out statistically this could not have been an accident. And that they tell him ultimately who's responsible for his wife's murder. And he goes on a revenge tear. Like he literally just starts killing them. It's the weirdest Batman movie you've ever seen. But it's also incredibly sweet and deep. And it's about grief and loss and figuring out ways to move on. And all of these people who are broken together but form a family in a quest for revenge. It's subtitled, so you'll like it. But
is it a movie or a show?
It's a movie. What's
it called again?
Riders of Justice.
And when did it come out?
It came out earlier this year. I want to say like summer.
I'm fucking in, man. You just sold me a fucking cool sounding flick.
Yeah, it's on Hulu now.
That's where I can watch it. Riders of Justice.
Yeah, like, and he's great because it's fucking Mads Mikkelsen. But it's really, really good. I was surprised at how much I'm liking it.
It's a reader. I'm in. I've been loving Yellow Jackets. You watching Yellow Jackets?
I've watched the first two. I'm behind, but it's so strong.
It is. There's only 2 episodes left. Oh, I mean, there's no way they don't go again. It doesn't seem like they're going to be able to wrap everything up in fucking 2 episodes. So it feels like they'll keep going, but really wonderful show. All right. So back to the questions, Bam.
Back to the questions.
Our last question.
Bam. Last question. BL Fisher was interested to know, if you had to make a superhero horror film, what characters do you use? And I think we take Blade off the table. Thought.
Josh Alvarez in chat is saying, are you all watching Station 11? It's basically the story of how comic books help a little girl survive the apocalypse.
I've seen the first episode, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. But be forewarned, the apocalypse is a viral pandemic. So it's like...
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, like it's very close to the bone. But it's really good.
I'm in, man. I'm in. Okay. Back to the question.
B.L. Fisher, if you had to make a superhero horror film, what characters would you use? And I'm going to say take Blade off because we've kind of gotten that.
So one more time, if I was going to make a superhero
horror film, what character do you build the film around and make it horror?
I mean, Alan Moore did such an amazing job with Swamp Thing. You know, he took a character that was kind of one note and gave him this deep mythology and tied him into the supernatural, took the character into hell to battle for the soul of his love. Still one of the greatest fucking single issues of a comic book I ever read is that Swamp Thing annual. You know, I don't know. I mean, I know they've done Swamp Thing fairly recently and a pretty good version of it from what I understand. But that would probably be the way in for me, because then you get to fuck around with Anton Arcane, the Unmen and shit like that. I think that's what I would I would do. There've been a few cinematic incarnations of Swamp Thing, and one was closer to the comics than the other. One was closer to Alan Moore's comics than the other. And then the series that they did recently sounded like they got a lot right too. But I think there's like just a horror version of that show. Like the book always made Houma, Louisiana seem like this haunted fucking town. I think we're gonna get a taste of the flavor of that in the Sandman show that they're doing for Netflix. But that's what I would do. I would do Swamp Thing, the Alan Moore Swamp Thing run. It was so horror based. I remember one of like there's like this thing feeding on like children's fear, the home for kids. And there was a kid who whatever the creature is, the demon is, it latches onto a child's imagination and feeds on that. And so I'll never forget, like, there's a passage talking about this kid who like had only heard the word cancer and knew that it had killed his mom or dad or grandmother or grandfather. And so the beast took the form of like what the child imagined cancer was. Like, shit like that you can make fucked up, horrifying fucking visuals with. Yeah, if you want something spooky, man, go read that Alan Moore Swamp Thing run. It's incredible. That's what I would do. What about you, Mark?
Two characters come to mind. The first is the easy version, which is Constantine. I think that the Keanu Reeves sort of flickered with horror. Like it never went like deep horror, but it
spun off of Swamp Thing as well.
Yeah. So I think there's, a guy who deals in magic and demons and the netherworlds and all of that shit. Like horror feels like very close to that. So it's an easy nudge into full on horror. But the one that was a little more interesting to me is like, I loved that there's a sequence in Man of Steel where you first see Clark struggling in school because some of his X-ray vision gets out of whack. And he just starts like seeing through everything. Like there's no longer a barrier between his control and whatever. And suddenly he's seeing bones and musculature and veins and skin and through like all of that stuff. Like powers when you're young and don't know how to control them feel dangerous and scary. And then thinking about like Professor X, like what happens if you're Charles Xavier and you're like 13 or 14 years old and suddenly you can hear everybody's thoughts. Suddenly you can read minds. Suddenly you can control minds. Like what roads do you go down? What darknesses do you first bump up against before you decide to set limits for yourself? What's the deep, dark, angry that he sees in other people in the world that he doesn't know how to protect himself from? I think that kind of sort of cerebral horror, that mental horror that can then give way to like body horror is all kind of like juicy. And it's less, scary demons, but it's more Cronenberg in a way that I think could be really fucked up.
Did they ever do him as a teenager in the comics?
They must have over the years. Like somebody must have.
Did he have his mutant abilities as a teenager? Because that would be kind of interesting to be like that guy. Like there are many mutants, and they've shown many mutant stories of teenagers dealing with their mutant abilities. But the most powerful mutant in the universe, I'm going through puberty. Like, yeah. I'm not even joking. It's like think about like the journey that your head and heart took when you were a fucking teenager, figuring out fucking who you loved, if you could love them, if they loved you back, all that shit. Teenage heartbreak, but then grafted onto the most powerful fucking psychic mind the world has ever known. If that person's heart is broken, is the whole world's heart broken because fucking some girl won't go to a dance with him or some guy?
Yeah, and also the idea that like if he falls asleep in dreams, what is his mind doing when he's asleep? Who is it affecting? What is seeping into?
Fuck up! Oh my God, that's another fucking $1 billion idea. Shut the fuck up. Just strike that from the record. God, that's fucking good. Have they done that before?
If they have, I don't know. I don't know if they've done the teenage Charles Xavier.
Or just the
Losing his
idea
mind.
that like he goes to sleep and he's not in fucking control of his faculties. What happens when that mind is unleashed, when he's not harnessing it because he can't not fucking sleep? Oh my God. I want that. That's the kind of shit I want right there.
That's the juice. Give me that juice.
Nerd Large says, so the New Mutants. Yeah, kind of, but still.
Yeah, but different.
I think one of the scariest movies, I don't do horror movies, but one of the scariest movies I ever saw, because I went to the theater and I saw it because I thought it was a sci-fi movie, is Event Horizon.
Oh, fuck.
And what if the Fantastic Four movie was Event Horizon? And they go off into deep space and they discover Mephisto, the devil, on this spaceship, and that's where they get their powers.
I'm all for it, but Trank did the, science gone wrong Cronenberg Event Horizon version of Fantastic Four, kind of. Josh Trank in his version, the body horror version of it.
But it wasn't that scary, though. I felt more like...
I don't know. A lot of people shit on that movie, but I thought it had a tone to it that didn't feel like a Marvel movie, didn't feel like a DC, felt like its own thing. It really felt like a movie out of time, like a movie that could have been embraced and existed before comic book movies were made, but before they became popularized. Like if you had done that circa Blade, I think people would have taken it a lot better. But it's just, that movie was made in a world where everyone's like, this is what a Marvel movie looks like. And so right there, you've got an uphill battle. There were interesting ideas in it, but the Doctor Doom stuff at the end kind of.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird movie, but that pocket in the middle, when they come back with their powers, like that body horror segment, it's like 10 minutes long. Yeah. Where like Mr. Fantastic Reed wakes up and his body is all over the room, and Johnny doesn't know how to stop the fire, and Ben is just sitting in a room in the dark because he's just like, he doesn't want to look at himself. Like, oh, that is actually really evocative and effective. It's just a bunch of the rest of the movie doesn't work.
No, absolutely. But interesting ideas. But I'm not saying like, yeah, fucking everyone go see it. But I'm saying like that they have approached the idea of, Fantastic Four through the horror prism. But man, is that it? Shit, did we just run out of gas?
Well, you told me to shut up, so I shut up.
No, go keep talking.
But now I realize the wisdom of your telling me to shut up.
I've got one last question. It's not really a Q&A question, but somebody was asking if you guys are going to do commentaries for the back half of Motu. Like, didn't you and Josh Roush do those commentaries?
Yes, with the writers. I mean, we did it the first time, and I got fucking ratioed to fuck on those videos, man. Like, they were so fun to do and informative, and then a lot of joy was stolen. But you know what? I'm sure a lot of people who are like, well, you stole my joy by not making the Masters of the Universe show that I wanted to see, so fair's fair, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I always think it's interesting to hear that stuff, though, right? Like,
I was happy to share it until a bunch of people came after me. And then I wasn't interested anymore.
Yeah. But they did not come after you because we did commentary videos.
That was just a place for them to come after.
That was a venue for it.
Yeah.
But
they were sitting right there, man. Oh, you go back and you look at like some of the videos from like that era from when we dropped, and this is only going back to like June, July. Like it's crazy the amount of like comments and dislikes. I'm a lover, not a fighter. So,
I mean-
I get sometimes people like don't get what I do, at least with my characters and shit. I mean, a lot of people don't like, and I'm not saying they're not smart enough. They're just like, ew, it ain't my fucking thing. That's fine. I've dealt with that forever with my own shit, but dealing with it with somebody else's IP, as covered previously, it's just yikes.
Yipes. So I guess that's a no.
Yeah. I mean, never say never. Michael Keaton's back as fucking Batman.
So 30 years from now.
It's a world where 20 years from now, we all sit down, me, Mark, fucking Eric, Tim, and Dia, and finally record the writer's commentary for the back half of the season.
Where Dia is like the one who gets up and gets us all food because we're all too old to do it.
She was the youngest one.
She's the youngest one.
By the time we get around to it, she'll be old too.
Yeah, but still the youngest one.
That's true. She'd be like Estelle Getty, who was the youngest one in the Golden Girls, but played the oldest one.
Poor Estelle.
To bring it all back to Betty White. Rest in power. There it is, kids. We got no more show. We got no more questions, right? No more answers.
Yeah, we're
I
done.
got no more answers.
We got no more show. We got nothing left for you. We emptied the tank. It's been 3 solid fucking hours, man. We started with Dave Klein, who for the last 3 hours that we've been sitting here fucking blabbing our mouths off has been literally making fucking Mando season 3.
Making a Star War.
Can't wait to see it. We thank Dave Klein for taking time to pop in. We'll get him again. We thank the good folks at Native for sponsoring the second half of the show, and my new friends at Emmy for sponsoring the first half of the show. Yeah, some vegan ramen, man. I'm all over that. I got it coming already. We thank JC, who just bamfed out of there to put up the Emmy logo. There he is, Bamf Man, for bringing us all to you and making this all possible. We thank the great Nate Gonzalez. Did you see this week's artwork?
It was sweet.
You got to be Dengar.
I was happy about it.
I would have preferred to be Dengar, but I'm like a bitch. Sometimes he puts me in the like the Batman and Robin role. I become Batman. I don't always feel like Batman. So I think I would have been a much better Dengar. You're more the Boba Fett. You're the guy with the gaffy stick who's like, it sucks, and this is how it could be better.
It's clobbering time.
I'm just a guy wrapped up in bandages. Like, apparently, I'm not very good at my job.
I keep getting fucked up.
Nate Gonzalez does art. You could go to, he's got a website. What is it? darknatereturns.com, I think.
Yeah, like bigcartel.darknatereturns, or go to Dark Nate Returns on Twitter. I'm sure you can find all of it.
And you can go to a store and you can buy the artwork and stuff.
Indeed.
He's got a lot of it. It's beautiful. We thank him for doing the artwork. And we thank the guy right down there. There
it is.
Down there. I feel like fucking like one of the Brady kids, like looking down. Remember they looked from their boxes down?
Yeah. It's Alice with the meat.
We thank the guy without whom there is no fucking show, the only thinking man on the show, who sometimes thinks too much and gives out billion-dollar fucking ideas.
No, I need to stop that.
Oh my God. Think before you speak, man. Like, I know like we're all like trying to not to say the wrong thing so as not to upset people out there in the world and shit, but it upsets me when you give out brilliant ideas for me.
It is my gift.
It really is.
I'm a river to my people.
You come here for the pop culture kids, you leave here with some cool ideas for your own stories and shit. Don't forget to tell them who inspired you, man. Marc Bernardin. That's it for the very first episode of Fat Man Beyond, man, for 2022. Welcome to 2022, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kevin Smith.
I am Marc Bernardin.
Tune in next time, kids. Same fat time, same fat channel, smodcast.com or
youtube.com/Kevin Smith.
Big 22 Jeff's Kiss. Mwah. This is the cat. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the AKA Ask Kev Anything. Every saga has a 10-year anniversary, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what happens when Jay and Silent Bob get old. I'm Kevin Smith. Kiss him, you